Hello and welcome back to my channel What If Deku 2.0. Join us as we delve into the realms of fanfiction and fantasy, bringing you the best stories and discussions. Today we're kicking off part 23 of our series, What If Deku Became the Villain Emperor? If you enjoy this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more content in the future. The author of this story is DekuVerse from Archive of Our Own. All the relevant links are in the description. Feel free to say hello to the author on their profile. Now let's dive into the fanfic. The sun rose over the horizon, showering the lands of Japan with its golden sunlight and warmth. Birds started chirping, making its usual morning song perfectly like they did since the start of time. People were waking up for their jobs, schools and errands like every other day. Adults going for their jobs, kids begrudgingly going for their classes and women going for the markets for shopping. New York City was very lively in the mornings. Unfortunately, a certain couple weren't very welcoming of the early morning. In a certain bedroom, a dangerous white-haired mastermind with enough power to level up cities opened his eyes begrudgingly as golden sunlight assaulted his eyes through the curtains. Ugh. Sunlight. Get lost, it's too early in the morning, he mumbled quietly, but after staying in the same position for few seconds he sighed in exasperation. He woke up, so he isn't going back to sleep. Sometimes he questions why did he get energy and stamina quirks on top of energy saver. It was possibly way too good. And it made sleeping hard. Now you say that it's cool to not sleep. But there was a single catch in the deal for Deku Shigaraki. The white-haired mastermind sighed again, before he started slowly untangling himself from the embrace of his red-haired beloved woman, and he tries his hardest not to stare for too long at her in all her naked glory. Akane slept, not that way despite what the current scene might suggest, with him last night. After a long, passionate and very heated makeout session. It was great actually. Last night he had a late night planning with Rabbit. The little girl proving to be quite fascinating even more honestly. She gave several plans, flawed yes, but they were still raw materials to use. It was going to be useful. No idea is a bad idea, just an idea that was used in the wrong way in the place or the wrong time or the wrong situation. But that was besides the point. Rabbit was apparently a mastermind of a league similar to him and Dad. The First League. She was both a talented tactician and strategist. Being a mastermind of more than one speciality is pretty rare. Something extraordinary actually. So his joy to find someone like that to talk about plans with, well, he had his dad but he would rather an active mastermind. His dad made it clear that he would enjoy watching a movie with Inko-chan and Rei-chan rather than plan the destruction of some of the government systems. Especially when said someone could point out flaws in his thinking, which was rare, but in a week she pointed out nervously a better approach 3 times. Instead of looking at him in awe. There are multiple types of fields a mastermind can excel at. Strategist, tactician, investigator and organizer, and one that came to exist thanks to quirks and data analysts. Deku was a mastermind with proficiency in the first and second types, and damn good at both mind you, but he lacked at the others. He was decent but honestly would rather to have a professional. Moken was on the path to being an excellent organizer and Mel was shaping up into an investigator. Deku was very relieved to have his bases covered like that. His dad didn't get rid of Maria and Redestro because they were good chief advisors for him in his war against Nedzu and Sir Night-Eye. Nedzu as a data analyst/tactician and Sir Night-Eye as a strategy-sir/investigator. Those two were an absolute pain in the ass. But the type that, despite causing him major inconveniences and after all Mike came back from the States, major losses, he couldn't help but feel the thrill of challenge. Deku didn't blame him. He would be happy to have some rivalry. And when he fully conquers, whatever is left to conquer anyways of the country and finishes off the MLA and PLF and shoves atrocity into his torture dungeon and stuffs him with an immortality quirk and many regeneration quirks, he will finally have the ultimate torture dummy he always wanted. He could practice so many things on someone unkillable. It would be extremely glorious. Deku, after 10 minutes of awkward and slow but still well-calculated movements, was able to untangle himself from Akane's arms, which had a strong but still comfortable to sleep on grip on him. Getting free was a labor, but he didn't feel like waking her up. It was an ungodly hour, damn it. He is so buying new curtains today. Not very sweet to not give me a good morning kiss. Akane Rika announces with a playful tone of voice, still in the same position. But there is a small threat in there. Deku smiled, then backtracked to bed, wrapping his arms around her and giving her a gentle, quick, but very passionate kiss. After a few seconds he pulled off, causing her to pout at him. He just smiled at her cheerfully, causing her to adapt a similar facial expression. "Good morning, sleeping beauty," Deku said cheerfully. "Women are truly a gift from heaven, ain't they?" "Good morning, handsome," she replied with a smile of her own. He chuckled and picked her up in his arms. His height was now superior to Melissa's, who was the tallest of his girlfriends. That definitely made him feel more in control of the relationship. Plus, it's kinda humiliating to date a woman taller than you, in his opinion at least. Akane giggled as started kissing her neck before shoving his face off. "Knock it off. If you're that into seeing me in all my glory, then why the hell did you pass on ragging me senseless last night?" she asked with a grin. Deku just gave her a clueless look. "Ragging you?" he repeated in confusion. That made her groan before smirking mischievously. "It means me senseless," she whispered seductively. He blushed furiously at her words. "It means throwing at you bed, pinning me down, handcuffing me and then pounding me over and over and over, with me squealing at you to keep going and dash." Deku tossed her to the bed, which startled her greatly. "Hey, what's dash?" she tried to say, but he dashed to the bathroom on his personal living quarters. She blinked seeing how red he was before she started laughing loudly. Extremely loudly. The room was soundproof, but even if it wasn't she couldn't help it. Deku the villain emperor, Karma Shigaraki, a serial killer with a 6-digit number of kills, all of them idiots without exceptions, but still, a mastermind of the biggest and most powerful criminal organization in the country who is already expanding to Asia quickly, and will most definitely take over the rest of the world, can't stand the idea of having good time because it was too embarrassing. Then again, even amoral sociopaths like Kai Chizaki apparently were like that. Her mother, you know what? Her real parents weren't that great anyways, F them. Mightless is her new mom, told her that her stepdad, because she really doesn't get along with Cure, they are in civil state but far from being family, so a stepdad more than a dad, was far worse. When they woke up after one drunk rant, for him to find her on top of him, completely undressed. Kai Chizaki freaked out like a kid, and for once not because he was a germ-phobic but because he slept with a woman, and her mom gave her all the hilarious details. But Akane couldn't pull the sale trick, because her mom in fact did intentionally. Because Deku was against drinking in general, he would drink wine in the most important occasions and only a bit, but he would never get drunk. Apparently he has an example to make for high F that for their kids. Which was adorable but still awkward. But underage drinking, well, now this one she agrees with. Mahoro would totally go for it now if she could just to play adult. F Akane is a bit no? She won't question his parenting though. Because honestly at least he did read books on parenting and dealing with kids. She sure as hell didn't. So she couldn't judge even if she tried. It was then that her husband exited the bathroom with a towel wrapped around his lower body, shame really, and his hair and body soaked. He looked amazing with the water droplets sliding of his skin, through those delicious 8 abs of his. And well, his special part, which she might or might not be dreaming to enjoy way too often. Why is her husband torturing her? Covered with a towel. Her face then matched her hair color, bright red, which is a good match for her birth name too, as she stared at him. "You okay, honey?" her husband asked as the clueless cinnamon bun he was, causing her to get the sudden urge to rip at her hair. "Yes, you have been torturing me ever since we got married. I drop by, you roam your hands around me, you arouse me and make me filled with desire. But then you just stop. I am beginning to suspect you want me to beg like a submissive beach by now. So would you be nice to confirm?" She is so done with playing nice and trying to accommodate him. She has needs and desires too. If he wasn't going to satisfy them, then why? Because he was too nice to say no, god damn it, did he agree to marry her in the first place? Deku blinked at her before blushing. What she didn't expect is for him to make a thoughtful expression and start mumbling to himself like he does when analyzing stressful situations. A minute later he resurfaces from his deep thoughts. He gave her an apologetic smile before he walked to her, gave her a long loving kiss and started patting her head. She was sure she was a top. Why does he succeeded in making her a bottom? Gently. "Well, you are right, my dear. I guess I should have been taking your needs and desires into the equation when I agreed for marriage between us. Not just you but the other girls too. Marriage is, as stated, a two-sided relationship. You show me love and support, but I was too neglectful to give you what you want. And I am deeply sorry for that." She didn't expect an apology. But well, that felt nice. How about this? When I burn down the CRC in a week, I will each of you my queens a night of your own. Wait, what? And we can do exactly what each of you want. The way each of you want. I will follow what you like. Well, this is certainly not what she expected to hear when she woke up that morning. But she isn't complaining either. "I will hold you on that promise, Mr. Perfect Dad. And for the record, I expect to be literally knocked out by you. I know you have the stamina of a monster, and I want it put to good use." Understatement of the century. He could probably FHR for 72 hours straight without a loss in momentum. Scary but kinky. His face burned red, matching his eyes, and if his hair was green not white, he would have been a tomato plant. I didn't expect that the person in charge of one of my most favored subsidiary groups was a bottom. And such a submissive one too, he mumbled quietly to himself. But she still caught it. She huffed, slapping his hand away before walking to the pile on the corner that was her clothes that she tossed last night. As she walked, they made sure to sway her hips just the right way. And she knows it did the intended purpose. As Deku watched her get dressed, and what a view. His personal phone vibrated as he got a message. He blinked before looking at the phone and tilting his head in confusion. Katsuki Bakugo. Nerd, I have the exam in 2 hours, we depart in 90 minutes. Katsuki Bakugo, can I ask for a favor? Now that was SUS. What would Katchan want with him? Some tips on how to pass the exam? Or some heads up in case of an attack? Honestly, Katchan was one of the hardest people to predict. He was a bouncer, he doesn't give a damn about the law, just justice. His definition of heroes changed from before, and Deku had no idea what was happening in that explosive brain filled with profanities, and probably ideas on how to set HPSC's HQ aflame ASAP. But that was neither here nor there. Usagi Midori. What do you want, Katchan? Katsuki Bakugo. I want you to dress your daughters in their most cute or ominous or fantasy-like dresses and send them straight to my class dorm. Usagi Midori. No. Deku sure as hell didn't see that coming. But honestly, he has a somehow mixed feeling that this is going to be both good and bad in a way. But as long as his daughters are happy, he can accommodate, right? So he settled on replying. Usagi Midori, I sense a ton of chaos and I need to get a good laugh. Usagi Midori, alright, I'm in. Usagi Midori, anything else? Katsuki Bakugo, do you like cults? Usagi Midori, not really? Katsuki Bakugo, good. Okay, now that's SUS. Hey sweetie, can't you put down the phone and stop working for a second? Asked his red-haired beloved wife with her hands in her hips. Shit, he forgot she was here. Actually, it was Katchan? He told me to dress up the little girls in cute outfits and then drop them by his dorm. I have a bad feeling. He was so unsure, he doesn't like it. Katchan is the only one that knows how to F with him, by spending years with him, unpleasant, but he was still perceptive, in the worst ways possible. Sounds like F ton of chaos and I am in need for a good laugh. Let's dress them up. Akane declared as she pumped her fist up. He just sighed in exasperation at her attitude. He was an introvert at heart, something he definitely didn't get from his extrovert mother. He takes condolences that his dad, Raijin Shigaraki, was also an introvert that married a couple extroverts too. But all his wives are extroverts, which makes getting along sometimes hard. Achievable but still kinda hard. But relationships were never easy to begin with. So he will rise to the challenge. The two of them exited the room together. Breakfast was a quick affair, mornings kisses from his wives and kisses on the cheeks from daughter, even Eve gave him one. Then he went to dress them up. Can I ask why the vampire aesthetic, Eve-chan? He asked as he was brushing her long blonde locks of hair gently. She was dressed in a red dress with a white flower crown, and grew fangs with her nanomachines to resemble a vampire. The young biological weapon blinked at him, her face perfectly blank before she replied. Because vampires are very classy, and in my opinion they represent both style and majesty. Plus I'm very pale like them. And can conveniently grow fangs. Which suits the cosplay. Deku just shrugged his shoulders at her answer. Whatever makes you happy, dear, he said while skillfully ignoring Himiko on the verge of tears from what her newest, but oldest, daughter said. Now young ladies, be careful out there and make sure to not eat too much junk food, okay? Even if you're going on a trip, you stay healthy, said Kurogiri politely as he opened them a warp gate. The three girls nodded enthusiastically at his words. Although Mahoro looked a bit exasperated. But she still appreciates the fact that he cares. That alone mattered to her the most. And after Kurogiri sent them to the coordinates. Deku doubts it's some form of trap or trick. Katchan was too proud to play dirty like that. And he believes in personal honor. He would blow his own head before he does something like that. So yeah, time for internships. It seems like we are. Having an issue, said Boss with a neutral expression on his face. Rabbit was startled by neutral. Rabbit realized that, in fact, his default expression was a smile, so neutral is bad, frowns are super bad, and scowls means things are going to be a shitstorm. What is it? Rabbit hates the stuttering, but she can't really help it. He looks more intimidating than when he is smiling and trying to not be intimidating. He is that scary, so seeing him grim was terrifying. Well, it seems that the Humarize had, without anyone's realization, established a base in one of the Izu Islands. Aashima Island in fact. I don't know how but I'm impressed. Small but big enough to hide your main base. I sent Vampire, Prism, Heartjack, Hypnosis and Kurogiri simultaneously. They should get me a report of the current situation soon. Boss explained calmly. Rabbit blinked at him before going slack-jawed at what he explained to her. Humarize are in Japan. But Mightless kicked them out 7 years ago. They were quirkless supremacists despite being quirked. They were a bunch of hypocrites. I know that they still exist around the world and very much, but I can't believe they're back in Japan. Rabbit found herself surprised by only stuttering once. She hates Humarize. They were hypocrites. Supposedly they believed in the quirk singularity theory about the demise of Earth. But were quirked these and somehow played like they cared for the quirkless? Mightless kicked them out 7 years ago in a glorious battle between her and Turnflecked personally. He never dared to show up in public again after she exposed his weakness. There was only so much punishment he could reflect before his quirk weakens. Honestly, it might have been one of her very few heroic actions to date. But a damn memorable one for sure. The rest of Humarize fled the country soon after their leader was punched to next week by a woman without super strength. Redestro must be still salty even now, wherever he is in hell. He was probably dreaming to be the one to defeat him, and with a good strategy, so correct tactics and playing his cards right, he probably would have. But much to Rabbit's petty amusement, he didn't. His soon-to-be arch-nemesis did. Probably that is what made her on top of Redestro's shit list. Redestro was a one petty idiot. He was a skilled organizer/strategist, competent if not overly so, but even then he sucked at playing his cards right. The only thing smart about Redestro was that he stuck to Hokkaido most of the time, lest the HPSC president would have assassinated him. Nedza would have happily helped them if they simply asked. And Rabbit suspects that it would be because that way they can launch a civil war against each other openly, while still watching out for Mightless. Bold of you to assume that they are back and weren't hiding, Rabbit, mused Boss loudly, effectively snapping Rabbit from her thoughts. She blinked at him before realizing that he was testing her. She will pass. Hopefully. Well sir, they are back because Sir Knight I surely made sure they're gone. But focusing on that wholeheartedly. We both know that if there was a single cell of Humarize left, Nedzu and All Might would have annihilated them together and hauled them in Tartarus. So by that logic they must have came back. Considering all for ones and now your spy network. I bet you would have caught them before now. I give them a year ago. And maybe less because Sensei would have sent tips to Mightless if they stick her around in case SR Naitai of all people failed to catch them. And then the laser disc villain would just slaughter them all. Rabbit let out a sigh after she finished her explanation before looking at her current mentor to see his reaction. He in return gave her a smile and she felt like she was exposed to some form of quirk because she felt very warm inside. In the good way. Why does he have to give the super sweet and loving big brother vibes? She is already struggling to decide. Excellent deduction, my dear. You got perfectly correct. Boss smiled cheerfully. I hope you don't see that as being pushy, but we really would be great as siblings plotting Japan's demise together. Me and my adorable sister. Rabbit finds it hard to disagree. If only because she sees that he means it in his eyes. But other than that, yes. You're right. Me or Dad would have ditched them to Mightless if they were still around. They probably came around the time I attacked the USJ and the UA students. Ever since then it was a clusterf after another. Understatement of the century in Rabbit's opinion. The fight with 4 top heroes, HPSC HQ Destruction, Redestro vs Mightless Round 2, Karma vs Maria First Round, Sports Festival, Hosu Incident, PLF Rampage, Summer Camp War, it was a disaster after another with barely a few weeks time frame between them. I guess she shrugged. What are you going to do about it? At that moment a glint came into Boss's eyes. Rabbit felt the urge to jump through the window, and refrained only because there was no window in sight. Not me, my dear. In turn, he drawled the words with a lazy but amused tone. What would you do? Why what? Wait what? She asked blankly. Boss chuckled in amusement. As you heard, consider this a trial while I prepare you as my second in command for the raid on the CRC's main base. You have a location, fighters, multiple assets, logistical support, weapons and many other things. I will give you a list of what I am going to donate, including Nomus and some other things. Oh, and you can ask the QLF and QEM for help too. Heck, you can get an army of twice if you ask, he offered her while sipping on his coffee. So, you are offering me enough power to conquer a small country. And that's just to get rid of a small base in Aashima Island? This seems like an overkill, she expressed her concern. Not in the slightest, he replied calmly. Then took another sip of coffee. I am sure that they have at the very least 20,000 soldiers in there, Humarize is the biggest criminal organization in the world, the number of members is in millions. They have plenty of extras to spare, extras of good quality too. I am giving you a reasonable amount of resources for your first command mission in an open assault. You will make the strategy, you will study the best possible tactics, you will spilt your assets, I will be here merely for advice. Rabbit stared at him blankly for exactly 10 seconds before throwing her hands in the air. Papagiri can lecture me later if he wants, but I'm so having a drink right now, she declared with a deadpan. Boss just chuckled at that, before with a snap of his fingers a bottle of wine and 2 wine glasses popped into the table. Rabbit blinked for few times before sighing. Your quirk is the coolest ever and I will punch whoever says otherwise. Or choke hold them with my thighs, she declared with a blush. Boss looked at her for a second before snorting. Why do I feel if your classmates got to witness they'd wish it was one of them? Rabbit snorted as if. She knows she was cute but until she gets her quirk, none of them would want anything to do with her. Doubtful but thank you for the drinks. Is this good though? She asked in concern. I heard about your drinking policy. Don't worry, as long as the kids don't see me and I don't take too much at once I'll be fine, he waved before looking at her in sadness. Plus, I know this wouldn't be your first drink. She winced. She must admit Boss was, well, smart as hell. Yes, she had a depression phase in middle school, where she drunk herself whenever her parents weren't home. But she broke out of it when on the run. She didn't want to add underage drinking into the list of her crimes. Prison wasn't the nicest place, the quirkless. Yeah, if anything. This is my first decent drink ever, she admitted as Boss was about to pour the wine. Then their phones dinged. Strange. It was Boss's personal VillainNet chat where villains could access him for deals. He added her as a permanent member as his apprentice. As the two grabbed their phones they nearly dropped it seeing who texted them. Wow, this must be a record to getting drunk, we haven't even opened the bottle yet. Boss said sarcastically as he looked at his phone skeptically. Rabbit couldn't agree more. It's too early in the morning for this shit. #VillainNet. Deku Shigaraki's personal email. At Mastermind entered the group chat. Mastermind, good morning to you Shigaraki-san. I hope I didn't wake you up or anything. The Demon Lord, not really Ms. Yatsubashi, I am a morning person, you don't conquer a country by waking up at noon. Mastermind, cheers to that if you are drinking that is. The Demon Lord, only in celebrations. Mastermind, understandable, I know how pleasant it feels but you must stay focused. The Demon Lord, indeed. The Demon Lord, but why did you call? Mini Maruko, to be exact, she texted. The Demon Lord, right. She texted. Thanks Rabbit head pats. Mini Maruko, enjoys head pats. Mastermind, that's wholesome, but I feel a lot of hostility despite having never done anything mean or disrespectful to you yet Shigaraki-san. At Mini Maruko changed at Mastermind's name to at Seuf Quirkism. Seuf Quirkism, rude. Seuf Quirkism. But considering that I am having difficulties cleaning up the, and excuse my language, shithole that my donor left me called an army, I guess I am in such position. Seuf Quirkism, Redestro. Mini Maruko. The Demon Lord, why do I get serious Daddy Issues vibes right now? Seuf Quirkism. Who do you think financed the PLF and the fall of Redestro? The Demon Lord. Oh. Mini Maruko. Oh. Seuf Quirkism. Yeah, F Redestro. Seuf Quirkism. Did I pass your morality test? The Demon Lord, not yet, but I am interested enough to not burn Daika City down for you phoning me. Seuf Quirkism. Excuse me for saying this but you are a revenge freak. Mini Maruko, he knows, he just doesn't care. If anything he takes pride in it. Seuf Quirkism, I see. By the way, a secretary? Mini Maruko, more like an assistant/intern/apprentice. Seuf Quirkism, cute. The Demon Lord, wait until you see her then say cute. Mini Maruko // Seuf Quirkism. Very wholesome and funny you mentioned seeing you too because I wish to invite you for a meeting and maybe lunch. Mini Maruko. Is this an assassination attempt? Seuf Quirkism. Unless you think I can convince Principal Nedzu and which president to lend me the top 10 heroes, Eraserhead, the strongest of paragons, and convince Mizuki Raida to lend me the support of the JSDF's full support, and maybe also involve Bankai Maria and Bankai Vengeance, I can't hope you'll win. Seuf Quirkism. So what do you think? Mini Maruko, boss is the coolest. Seuf Quirkism, the Demon Lord, ahem. Alright, where do we meet? Seuf Quirkism. Daika City Central Tower, the secretary shall welcome, and by the way, if Guei-ten or Skeptic are being bad dogs you can get them slaughtered. Don't care. Mini Maruko, just like that? Seuf Quirkism. Working for Karma will get me access to far more power than some mid-level hacker and a second League Class 5 quirk bearer. Mini Maruko, Raiite. The Demon Lord, what are we eating? Siyuf Quirkism. Do you mind Western food? The Demon Lord, all I'm in. Mini Maruko, wait, you assassinated Redestro? Siyuf Quirkism. Nope, but you guys did that for me. Me and Yami just guided him to the slaughter and he fell for it. The Demon Lord, spectacularly if I say so myself. The Demon Lord, so you're in contact with vengeance? Siyuf Quirkism. No, we are talking regularly and honestly we plotted the fall of Redestro ever since we re-established contact 5 years ago. Mini Maruko, you do realize that taking over his army doesn't make you better? Siyuf Quirkism. Agreed regretfully unless I change things around here, which I'm going to. But the work in progress is kinda slow. The Demon Lord, how slow? Siyuf Quirkism. I would rather discuss that in person if you don't mind. The Demon Lord, fair, Rabbit, prepare for an important meeting. This is going to be an important learning experience. Mini Maruko, yes sir. Kurogiri warped Deku and Rabbit right in front of Daika City. Everyone, even the interns, freaked out when Deku announced that he was going to Daika to meet the new leader of the Meta Liberation Army. Tamura, Stain and Dabi looked ready for war. Honestly, he is not sure how did they even back off from coming and giving everyone the death stare. Rabbit gave them puppy eyes from hell. She was just behind him so he didn't see that, but it was horrifyingly adorable. They surrendered unconditionally in 3 seconds. But once he convinced everyone that it's going to be civil, he was transported with Rabbit. He could, in theory, go himself but he believed in honestly. And he would rather to have a contingency plan, so Melissa gave him a small item to put in his pocket. If he lost connection to them, they would storm the place. Better safe than sorry, no? So yeah, he was transported to Daika City along with Rabbit, the two of them in villain outfits. Deku had his usual business suit, dark green, this one for special occasions, and helmet. Comfy and battle-ready plus pretty resistant. Rabbit on the other hand had a breakthrough with Melissa after being introduced into support gear. Her hoodie now could build down like a cowl, with a visor to see in darkness, infrared, ultraviolet and other things he doesn't get. She had a gas mask that looked like a toothy, sharp one too. Grin and her bunny hoodies is now made of anti-stab and anti-bullet materials. Her pants are the same, they looked like baggy trousers, but they were extremely resistant and easy to move in. The boots were now reinforced with iron soles, as well as iron protections for the knees, shinso and calves. Her belt has some bombs, 2 guns and her katana strapped to her back. They appeared in front of the entrance to the city. He must admit, it was built in a way that it was perfectly protected. The location gave the city a lot of natural defenses, so attacking would be harder with an army. Brilliant. Redestro was an idiot, but he sure knew how to set up something like a base in just the best place possible. And considering that the entirety of Hokkaido was under his command, it made attacking the base even much harder, because since the government lacked a warper, they will have to come in the hard way. By fighting through Hokkaido. Probably that's why the HPSC president started the Paragon program. To have an army on standby to fight through Hokkaido like soldiers through open battles where the heroes would focus on the heavy hitters and rescue. Because heroes were trained to fight crimes, not be deployed in wars. It was in fact illegal to deploy heroes on international matters without the consent of the United Nations. The two started walking, Deku with an air of confidence and cheerfulness, while Rabbit was trying to look calm, which would have worked if she wasn't fidgeting a bit. Calm down, Rabbit, they won't attack us even if they wanted. They are too afraid of me. After the clash between me and Maria. Plus, they value their quirks too much to risk me stealing them. Chances of someone attacking me are as slim as invisible cables, said Deku with a smile as he patted Rabbit on the head. I don't know what to think. On one hand, she is Redestro's daughter. On the other, hating her just for that when she is yet to do anything is more idiot, she pouted. Deku just laughed as he ruffled her hair that was covered by her bunny-like cowl. True to that. I am a person who believes in second chances, so it would be hypocrisy if I don't give someone a first one, right? He asked, but Rabbit said nothing. Plus, if she didn't wish at least to be friendly with us, she wouldn't have invited me here. She is taking risk of me going on a rampage just to show that she is willing to place some trust. So as she must earn mine, I must earn hers. Rabbit nodded. That made an awful lot of sense to her. It's an old saying, but it still applies to this very day. And the older generations did have their own wisdom to share with the next ones. The two reached the gate of Daika City after a couple more minutes of walking. The guards spotted them instantly and paled before they scrambled inside to make phone calls. Why do I have a feeling that we are technically dropping by unannounced? Asked Rabbit with a sweat drop. Deku just chuckled at that. She did it on purpose. That sly vexen, he grinned. When Rabbit looked at him questioningly, he elaborated. She is using me to put the fear of God into her followers, because she is having trouble in gaining their respect. So if playing nice doesn't work, why not just go for the more effective methods? Like scaring them halfway to death? Rabbit hammered her fist on her left hand. Ugh, they value their quirks the most, so if she gets cozy with the men who can take them, she will be feared significantly more. I must admit it's pretty genius. Especially that it's a win-win for both of you. Rabbit was definitely impressed. That sounded like a master strategist already. Mastermind was apparently more into working with people useful to her than her father, and way less uptight with her ideology. In fact, Izuku has a feeling that her beliefs, plans and strategies as well as her personal endgame are far different than Redestro's. She was apparently a moderate whole, her dad was a radical. And considering she hinted working with vengeance, he wouldn't be surprised if the Paranormal Liberation Front was just Mastermind's personal vanguard action squad. She's good, muttered Deku quietly to himself as the two waited in front of the gate. Very good. But what the hell is her endgame? He wasn't a data analyst like Nedzu or that CI girl, Psycho Inilai, was it? That's dating Katkin. He was a planner, not a foresighter or calculator. He can expect things like the public or the government. That was actually much easier. The government and definitely Mizuki were fools, but smart individuals? Yeah, no. Not his skill set. The gates in front of them opened quickly, just for many soldiers to be revealed, standing in formation and looking very, very, very pale. Rabbit snickered quietly, only Deku heard her. But he heard her and gave her a head pat in return. She enjoyed the head pats a lot. The apparent squad leader stepped forward before speaking. State your business. Deku frowned at that. Didn't Mastermind tell them? That would make sense for intimidation factor, but she could have at least told him. He was about to reply when the guards started speaking through their earpieces. Then almost immediately they parted ways, letting him and Rabbit walk through the crowd. The white-haired Mastermind was impressed. Her plan was already working. They are scared shitless from him. You really are overdramatic, and I'll call you out if you say otherwise, the white-haired Mastermind declared as he took a seat across from who he believes is Mastermind. I know, but you can't disagree with the results. Even Guei-ten was keeping his distance. In fact, especially Guei-ten. Which really makes my day, replied the dark-haired young woman with a cheerful smile. She sure as hell didn't resemble Redestro. She is a very pretty teenager, to be fair to her. She is around his age, pale, long wavy dark hair, pale blue eyes and two rosy cheeks. She looked like a mixture between Melissa, Momo and Ochako. Deku and Mastermind were sitting across from her, as she was doing what Deku hated the most. Paperwork is truly the bane of our existence. Us the villainous Masterminds, huh? Deku mused loudly, causing the raven-haired Mastermind to grumble something nasty under her breath. Cheers to that, Ms. Yatsubashi. Just call me Mastermind, Karmakuen. I'm not into formalities. Heck, you can call me by my first name if you wish. It's Rikita, she said with a casual wave of her hand. Alright then, Rikita-san. You said that you wish to speak to me face to face, and since no way am I giving you my headquarters address, you decided to go for another approach by inviting me to your own stronghold. So you must have a lot of things you want to say, and you are confident I won't have Dobby just prominence burn the tower? Deku leaned on the desk while resting his chin on his hands. So what do you wish to speak about? Mastermind paused her paperwork for a second before sighing loudly. I'd like to have that talk in private with you. I assume that you'd like to be accompanied at least by Miss Rabbit? She asked. Rabbit nodded fervently. Deku was flattered that she wasn't willing to let her guard down or leave his side. Then again, she probably didn't like the idea of being left alone and stuck with quirk supremacists. I take that it's going to be one of those talkative meals? Asked the villain emperor with a tilt of head. People talking about politics, history and their future plans over food? Oh, you truly are a man of culture, Shigaraki. Yes, it is. I believe that this type of talks can only be had over meals. Empty stomachs isn't really useful for thinking. And munching could give you something to focus on instead of throwing hands around, she explained. I have a feeling whoever taught you that is speaking out of experience. Rabbit, oddly enough, was the one to say that. Mastermind just grinned as she was working through her pile of paperwork quickly. Smart cookie, no wonder she caught your interest. Intelligence quirk? Mastermind asked. Rabbit frowned under her mask. No, she is quirkless. Deku replied calmly. Mastermind blinked before she laughed. Deku frowned. What's funny? Mastermind just waved it off. Nothing, I just find comical that we both have quirkless assistants/interns. Heck, mine is off bringing coffee right now. Deku definitely didn't expect that. You took a quirkless as your secretary. And everyone were cool with it? Deku definitely doesn't believe it. The radical branch would have rioted just for that. And what could Redestro do? Lower my payment? I could just stop working and he would be done for, considering the insane amount of shell companies and businesses and taxes he must calculate. If I stopped working, or worse, started messing up? Yeah, I don't want to be in his place. Mastermind looked oddly proud of herself for that. Deku decided that this woman was extremely different from Redestro. He could detect a bit of nervousness, but she didn't seem to have a problem with them. If anything, she looked delighted since they started speaking. Heck, even when he said Rabbit was quirkless, Mastermind seemed more impressive than bothered. Mastermind was an oddity. And, doesn't everyone else mind someone quirkless in here? Rabbit asked in confusion. Seeing how they usually act, I thought they would have started rioting by now. And I am sure that your main lieutenants aren't very happy. Deku almost burst into laughter at that. Holy F, little bunny, just holy F, that was a good one. Mastermind shrugged her shoulders before smirking. I gave her a gun and gave her permission to shoot anyone that attacks her between the eyes. And as for my lieutenants? Yeah, ever since I Vader-style chalked them in midair, they weren't willing to cross me again. Gue-ten in particular seems pretty intimidated. The two gave her quizzical looks at the Vader-style choke comment. But they'll ask over the meal. If only because they were curious about her quirk. Was it something like Star Wars type of force? Or is it just telekinesis and she is a major nerd? Whichever, the fact that she watches Star Wars was enough for them to respect her. It was then that the door to the office burst open, with a 12-year-old purple-haired girl running in frantically with a tray, a cup of coffee and many documents in her hands. Sorry I'm late in Aashima. The coffee machine was a total beach on me, and the printer ran out of ink, the young girl exclaimed as she ran in frantically. Just to trip and drop everything. And by bad luck the cup of hot coffee fell forward, heading to fall over Mastermind. With a sigh, Mastermind stopped the cup in midair, along with the documents, all of them floating in the air coated in a slight dark glow. Deku found the two words used together very odd but amusing, while she attracted the cup to her hand. After taking a sip she smiled. Ah, refreshing hot coffee. There is so much that spike could fuel in a human body. Some caffeine high is also extremely nice for this spiteful woman. Deku now decided that Mastermind was extremely hard to tick off. I am so sorry, Aashima. It was an accident, the girl said frantically as she started organizing the papers, and it was rather sad to watch. It's okay, Mori-chan. Nothing bad happened. You just have to work on your footing. And for God's love, stop walking around in heels if you can't handle them. I don't care what Curious keeps telling you. I won't fire for stupid heels. And I will skin that blue-haired woman myself later, Mastermind said. Honestly, Deku is sure he heard his dad saying he will murder Atrocity in less murderous way than Mastermind. Just wow. Thus I believe that this is your secretary. Deku smiled as he looked at the girl named Mori. Just for her to go pale in horror as she saw him. Now that slightly stings. He knows he is scary, but he was smiling. His smiles weren't scary. Well, unless he wanted them to be. But he was being nice. You are not here to hurt Aashima because her dad is a right, sir? She asked carefully. Deku finds the fact that she was holding her hands behind her back to subtly grab her gun and protect her supposed sister too adorable to feel offended. Damn it, kids are just too cute. No, if I felt like punishing people for the sins of their parents, I would have killed Shoto Todoroki to punish Endeavor, replied Deku with a smile. Oh, I see. Well, I am Mori Sauki. Codename Catalyst. She introduced herself with a bow. Rabbit introduced herself as well. And as the two girls started talking, both mentored by powerful villains despite being quirkless, happy to get along with someone. Right after then, another girl, this woman probably 19 or 20 years old, entered the office. She had long white hair and silver eyes. She honestly looked like his second mom, and that fed Jiten, looking bored. Riki-chan, Mori-chan, Jiten did it again. The white-haired woman announced with a sigh and a shake of her head. Deku blinked. Gaten. What now? Mastermind and Catalyst groaned miserably. Deku feels like he missed something of an inside joke, and for some reason he feels like it's dangerously hilarious. That isn't going to give up, is he? Grumbled Catalyst under her breath. Give up? Like winning? Did they fight? Probably not. He is dumber than Beast when he is on one of his drives when it comes to this bullshit competition. Mastermind replied dryly. With a tone that would make paint dry instantly. Deku is genuinely impressed with her. How many seconds hyperthermia? Deku was incredibly confused right now. He is reassured by seeing his not-yet sister being in the same boat as him. 10. Hyperthermia replied even more dryly. I think he went off to cry somewhere about his humiliation. Again. Seriously, he never gives up. I hope I'm not being rude or intruding, but what are you talking about? Asked Deku for both himself and Rabbit, who looked equally curious. Guiten, that dumbass. Hyperthermia groaned loudly, then replied. Is my goddamn brother. And I don't think someone regrets his family more than me. Somewhere else, Quicksilver felt like flipping someone the bird for some reason. And he keeps challenging me to fight so he could prove his own superiority. J.K. It ain't working out. The fact that Hyperthermia said it with a blank face made even more funny than it should have been. Everyone else burst into laughter at that. This meeting was already turning out to be even better than what he hoped, so far better than he expected. Okay, this Hyperthermia, my best friend, and someone who is the closest thing to my personal second-in-command/bodyguard/absolute weapon of mass destruction. No offense, sis. Mastermind added the last part with frown. Hyperthermia didn't seem to give a shit if Deku was reading her emotions correctly. At least you called me your best friend and sister. That's far more than the radical idiots ever said to me. Big mood Princess Elsa from Frozen. Snickered Catalyst. Before Deku could feel even more out of place, Mastermind clapped her hands together to get everyone's attention. It worked as intended. So she spike up. Well, I invited Shigaraki-san over here for lunch because I wanted to discuss some important matters with him. So why don't you join us, you two? She asked. Catalyst nodded her head fervently while Hyperthermia just shrugged. Deku decided that he trusts people who value family, especially when said family is beyond blonde or quirks. You definitely don't strike me as one of these guys, said Rabbit as they took their seats around the table. They were currently in a restaurant that was located in the middle of the tower. They took a private spot, so to speak of matters privately. The table was big enough to house the 6 of them, with Rabbit and Karma sitting on one side while Mastermind, Hyperthermia and Catalyst sat opposite of them. Well, because I am not. Those of the old guard are purely quirk supremacists. I don't really get along with them, to be honest. I am keeping them around because it is convenient to use them as cannon fodder, but I won't try hard to protect them. Especially that I have a very short temper when it comes to bullies. Shrugged Mastermind as opened the bottle of wine for them to pour from. Is it okay for Rabbit to drink? Hyperthermia inquired. She looked at the black-haired girl with concern, but Deku waved it off. Hyperthermia frowned at that, but said nothing since this wasn't any of her business. With a wave of her hand, Mastermind had 5 glasses come floating to the table, landing right in front of each of them perfectly. With another motion, the bottle of wine started floating, slowly filling the glasses one by one. Neat quirk. How does it work? Asked Deku as he observed the bottle covered with a faint glow of black energy. It was fascinating. And he has a feeling it's far more than a simple telekinesis quirk. Don't you have many quirks, Shigaraki-san? I would bet my arms you could get the answer yourself, said Mastermind with amusement. Deku just chuckled at her response before taking a sip. Well, using my quirk on you, even if a harmless one, would be pretty rude of me. Especially that you have done nothing to gain my ire yet. So I would rather be polite about my quirk-related curiosity. Especially that I don't think you would mind answering, or you wouldn't bother using it so much around me. While knowing how much quirks fascinate me, he was sure she was the type to play open cards when making friends. Well, when the other person is worthy of trust. He finds it quite flattering, actually. Bingo. Yeah, I don't really mind telling you. As for me using it a lot around you, that's where you are wrong, actually. Everyone in Hokkaido, but mostly Daika City, use their quirks freely. I am not showing off, I am just used to have my quirk as extension of my body, replied Mastermind, sipping from her own glass. By her two sides, Catalyst was drinking some cider while Hypothermia was drinking wine as well, but Deku noticed that it was misty, as if it got much colder. Was her quirk related to Jiten in freezing water? As for answering your quirk-related curiosity, why don't try to figure it out yourself? I heard a lot about your analysis skills on quirks, and honestly, I would be delighted to see that in action. Deku blinked at her in surprise before shrugging with a smile. He has absolutely no problem doing that. If anything, he prefers that way. This woman really knew how to get acquainted with people. Something she probably got from her dad, but she chalked off his quirkism. Deciding to humor her, he looked at her intently. No visible mutations or signs of quirk activation, but knowing your twin brother's quirk, I would say that you two have very similar quirk in nature. So your quirk either works on your own negative energy like your father, or on that of others like your brothers. But either way, it's not physical like him. Because he seems able to shape things with energy or enhance himself, so you must be his polar opposite. Your quirk, instead of enhancing your body, it enhances the mind. And since you started you did the heavy lifting when it came to accountant work for Redestro's many shill companies and such, my theory is confirmed. But seeing the telekinesis, I say that going back to your brother, he has physical abilities while you do have psychic abilities. Such as enhancing your mind, while vengeance enhances his body, you use psychic energy to affect things already existing, so it's telekinesis, while vengeance creates things solid with physical energy. So to sum up, I can say it's a Class V quirk. And an extremely fascinating one at that. I take it that overuse causes migraines? And if I have to make an educated guess, I would say that your mother had telekinesis or psychokinesis. It makes the most sense to have your quirks from it when it merges with stress. Deku sighed after finishing before sipping on his wine. So how correct am I? Silence. Everyone stared at him in awe. Hyperthermia looked the slightest but intimidated by his guessing. Catalyst stared at him jaw slacked. Mastermind though looked more amused and impressed than anything. The pause it took everyone to recover from their awe, the waitresses came quickly and served everyone their food. Rabbit ordered a vegetarian stew, a salad with lots of carrots, and a smoothie. Deku and Mastermind had both ordered a roasted steak and mashed potatoes along with some rice on the side. Catalyst ordered just some miso soup and nothing more, while Hypothermia seemed content with cold soba noodles. She and Shoto Todoroki would be best friends forever it seems. Welp, this is the guy who planned an operation to attack Nedza's stronghold, defeat the pros, force All Might on his knees while containing the students. Such a brilliant mind in analyzing quirks, I would bet that you are the best tactician in the country with knowledge like that. Mastermind respects knowledge, and when it's achieved through personal work instead of some quirk, then she admires it. She took a small bite of her steak with her fork before continuing. And yes, you got it right. The only thing you weren't sure about is correct too. I am more similar to Redestro than Yami. My quirk is powered up by stress, anger, sadness and other negative emotions and turn it into psychic energy. My quirk's name is Dark Spirit. Class V. It allows me to do multiple incredible things such as increasing the processing power of my mind into supercomputer-like state, same with my memory as well as telekinetic psychic powers, and even cancel quirks at vision distance from me. Also yes, you were correct. Overusing my meta ability could cause migraines, very troublesome migraines if I say so myself, confirmed Mastermind with a nod. That's a very cool quirk with so many amazing applications. You are like a combat-capable Nedzu. Rabbit was writing in a small handbook quickly. Everyone blinked at her, wondering where and most importantly when did she grab it, let alone start writing on it. Why think you, my dear? I see that you have the same fascination towards quirks as your mentor, or is he your older brother? Mastermind was confused by that small bit. She could swear these two were siblings. Well, I offered to adopt her, but she is still considering the options. She doesn't have nice memories about family life in general, Deku replied. Rabbit looked down feeling bad, but Deku patted her head with a smile. Now, no need for this, Rabbit, I understand your feelings. Don't feel pressured. Rabbit looked down. She felt bad. She really wants to accept. Seeing Catalyst calling Mastermind and Aishima made her feel compelled to do the same. But he keeps playing nice to steal your quirk. I see. Well, I understand the need for a competent assistant. Don't let Catalyst's clumsiness fool you. She is extremely competent when paperwork is involved, and documentary and methodology. Honestly, I could swear she has a secretary quirk or something. The three girls laughed in the same time at the joke. Deku and Rabbits followed short after. Speaking of siblings, can you tell me about you and Vengeance? I know you two are twins since you look the same age. But I don't know what is going between you two exactly. Deku inquired politely. Mastermind sighed. Well, I would bet that you already figured out that, in fact, my brother and the Paranormal Liberation Front are just that, a front he knows and doesn't mind. My brother, he is honestly more similar to Mightless, a bitter late bloomer with a burning, unstoppable desire to tear the world apart. Mastermind took a cut of her steak and chewed on it before resuming. So I gave him few words of wisdom. And became the sound of reason for him. Those words being? Rabbit asked curiously. Thus far she was mostly content observing the talk, clearly thinking things over. Noting her personal profiles in light of the new information for the new people. Deku will see what she got later. She told Yami that revenge is a good motivation, but shouldn't be the goal he takes for himself, replied Catalyst, looking positively delighted to. Repeat after Mastermind's quote. That if someone merely focused on destroying the hero society, both succeeding and failing would be their undoing. That he needed a solid idea of what he wants to replace it with before it comes crashing down, finished Hyperthermia while eating her cold soba. And your solid idea, Deku started, looking at Mastermind with a tilted head in confusion. That was the meta-liberation ideology? Catalyst nodded her head. Yes, and I think it fits, she added with a smile. Rabbit looked at her quizzically, causing Catalyst to blink at her in confusion. Is that really so surprising? Asked Catalyst, her brow raised and a glass of smoothie in her hand. In our case? Rabbit said. Yes, quite so. Yes. She only just discovered that she was not quirkless, she was a late bloomer, powerful quirk, but she doesn't know that yet. But she still lived that way for most of her life. And Catalyst living the same way but having problem with that ideology was just odd. That was, if we try to be an extremist like Jiten, maybe, shrugged hypothermia her shoulders. Those look down on the quirkless more than a societal average. I'm a staunch moderate. At least in ideology. Means of introducing it to the world are something else entirely, explained Catalyst with a smile before she started drinking her smoothie. I still fail to picture it, admitted Rabbit. After middle school, after the bullies, after that wild life on the streets and being only accepted by villains, I hate the idea of quirks in general. And you just go along with it? With some might makes right delusional tyrant wannabes? It's a common misconception. Mastermind sighed before sipping her wine. Deku was having the time of his life drinking this. It was delicious. Mori-chan, my dear. Are you willing to correct it? Some ideological training? Perfectly sensible in Deku's opinion. He does the same all the time. Some speeches, discussions and so on discrimination to make sure his friends don't lose sight of their goals. He is ready to sit that out for once. He's genuinely interested in what the modern MLA and its possible future Grand Commander is up to nowadays. Jiten, he is from the radical branch of the MLA. Claims that the MLA's victory was going to change the country into some quirk-based societal hierarchy, with stronger ruling over weaker, was HPSC's counter-propaganda for Destro, explained Catalyst. We seek to abolish quirk laws, not laws forbidding assault and theft. Not property laws. Destro's? Deku asked in surprise. Mastermind nodded her head with a smile. Yes, believe it or not, my ancestor wasn't quirkist. He wanted free quirk usage and to not have the metahumans chained and banned from using their gifts. But unfortunately it was the time of the death squads. So as you know, winners write history. Despite her still smiling, the part about history was filled with venom. So that's what people are led to believe. Radicals and quirk supremacists ended up corrupting the meta-liberation ideology. But I seek to follow Destro. I wish for free quirk usage, I seek for getting rid of the quirk usage laws. Not human decency and anti-discrimination and anti-bullying laws, my dear Rabbit. The quirk laws, started Rabbit, but Catalyst didn't let her finish. Are an atrocity, interrupted Catalyst politely. It's been more than 2 centuries since the dawn of quirks, but our entire society is built on the foundation of ignoring that fact. It's simply a travesty made by retards. Mastermind and Karma looked at each other before smirking. Okay, their apprentices are the ones to lead the argument, let them talk it out. It should be quite fascinating and entertaining to watch. The system has a point. Rabbit is genuinely distraught by having to defend it. She despises the government. Wrong people are running it and it's pretty much a dictatorship nowadays. That's the problem. The problem is that the creation of villains is inherent in the system, explained Catalyst. Time for a thought experiment. Imagine that you were born in a poor family with issues. And your own current and intellect. You don't make the cut for heroics. Because of said issues or because you couldn't pay for the tuition. What do? I use the intellect to get a normal job. Rabbit replied with a shrug. Superficially correct, although in their personal opinion she's dodging the right answer, or speaking through the point of view of a quirkless, on purpose out of spite for the quirkists. Yes, working 8-hour shifts every day for the rest of your life. Catalyst shook her head. In a company of people most of which you think to be stupid, knowing well enough that you could earn all the money you wanted with your quirk without having to leave your house. How long until you break? How long until you start breaking the quirk laws to earn some money? And what if something happens to a person close to you, and you'll suddenly need a lot of money to help them? Rabbit opened her mouth to respond. Karma decides to intervene, putting the wine glass back for a moment. Before you reply, a fun statistic, he added with a head pat. Do you remember the times before All for One fell and all the villains went on rampage? When All Might was keeping everything afloat. It was peaceful, wasn't it? She nodded, staring at him questioningly. The crime stats during that time fell to record low since the dawn of quirks. Which was, depending on the crime in question, anywhere from 110 to 346% of the stats from the times before quirks. Rabbit gaped at him, briefly shocked. The era of quirks habituated people into treating villain attacks with indifference. Karma remembers seeing Kamui Woods and MT Lady battle a gigantified villain years ago. That one battle caused more crime-related collateral damage than many pre-quirk towns saw in years, and people were just calmly watching it. You can be habituated into accepting horror with calm indifference. You can also be habituated into treating most of the supervillain activity as entertainment, especially for hero nerds. But the crime was still there. Most of that because we're denying people the opportunities they are born with. Hyperthermia added while Rabbit was busy trying to digest what she just heard. It's not common knowledge after all. We tell people born with wings to walk to work instead of making laws regulating the issue of flying within urban areas. We tell people that can manufacture goods for almost no cost to go to work at a cash register their whole life. And then, when they finally snap, we send heroes against them so that we can glorify them on TV as protectors of the country. Hyperthermia sighed in exasperation. And then people die. My ideal country, Karma decided to add. After all, he now knows their ideology. Mastermind's end goal. It's only right to make her know his own. Would still have heroes. But only the good ones that work on natural disasters and dangerous criminals, but I'm getting rid of the river glorification they get. I am tightening the leash so they don't go around tainting the heroics. I don't care for money and popularity contests. We are humans, it's in our blood. But I have serious problem with using your power to do wrong things. Same with discrimination, I will get rid of it so that way no child will have to deal with me. Reaper or vampire went through. There was a pause before Mastermind nodded at him. That sounds excellent for me. I don't mind heroes. Acme and Yami were fans of All Might. But you know, family tradition, I wish for freedom for everyone, and that obviously works well with your own goals. If people are free to use their quirks for jobs, with proper laws to make things organized, then there would be far less crimes. Does that bother you? Mastermind was testing him and his morals. Good job, he was impressed. She can suppress quirks, she can fight him like an equal here. Rabbit's gun has a quirk suppression bullet, she will shoot hyperthermia and then it's chaos. But good thing none of that is necessary. Not really, no, I control organized crimes. Even with all those achievements, villainy is still going to exist, and I will keep it from going back to hate crimes and terrorism. That way everybody wins. You, me, the country. All of us. Karma replied with a smile. Mastermind beamed at him before extending her hand. I see we will get along just fine, so how about we now discuss my conditions to joining your personal empire? She asked. Karma smiled back and shook her hand. With pleasure, Rikita-san. Nothing would make me happier. After they finished lunch, Karma and Rabbit found themselves in a very awkward situation. You wonder what's awkward? Wheelio. This is certainly awkward, stated Skeptic from one of the two sides in the large meeting room. This was awkward. The meeting room was right next to Mastermind's office. She had her main lieutenants all come. She was sitting in the middle of the side opposite of him, with Catalyst standing behind her to the left. Hypothermia was standing by the door, leaning on the wall with a disinterested look in her eyes, but she looked quite vigilant at the moment, probably ready to freeze whatever threat to Mastermind instantly. Sitting by Mastermind's right was Chikazoku Tomoyasu aka Skeptic. Head of the MLA's Communications and Electronic Warfare Division, the Feel Good Inc. Curious on her left, also known as Kazuki Chitose. Head of the MLA's Recruitment and PR Department, the Shueisha Publishing. There was surprisingly Hanabata Koku on screen, through a very secure internet connection, from his living quarters. Also known here as Trumpet. Head of the Hearts and Minds Party, the political branch of the MLA. Next to Skeptic we have Tokaname Tatsuyuki, or more known as the traitorous hero Slide and Go. Head of the MLA's attempts to infiltrate the Hero Society, which failed spectacularly after Sir Night Eye outed his ass, though he survived the arrest attempt. Then next to Curious we finally have Gina Michiko aka Jitan. Head of the Radical Branch, or was, Mastermind apparently is planning a purge after the summer camp disaster, of the MLA. Born out of an eugenic program as old as quirks. Something that made Deku want to vomit. Tuya and his stepmom will have a field day over this when they hear about the whole quirk marriage bullshit for 2 centuries, and Dabi will probably prominence burn the radicals in there too with a lot of glee on his face. Hyperthermia apparently is born from the same program, but that's a can of worms he'll open up later. The atmosphere is tense. Karma was sitting opposite of them, looking very calm and collected. By his side was Rabbit, her cowl pulled down, her gun already in her lap in case she had to shoot someone. He would bet his quirk she will go for Jitan. That would be glorious to witness, but otherwise calm. On opposite of him Mastermind was smiling cheerfully, looking around her, and obviously savoring the current scenery. Catalyst was stoic, but he could see the amusement in her eyes. Hypothermia looked bored to hell and back, but she focused nonetheless, although her focus was definitely not on him. The lieutenants were extremely anxious, which fair. Karma killed their leader and tortured him to death, right now. And Jiten looked ready to jump through the window. Rabbit was gleeful over it. They were called her with a memo, so they had no idea what the F they were getting into. And it showed when Skeptic tripped and almost fell flat on his nose when he saw Karma. Or when Curious turned pale instead of blue when their eyes met. Oh, his favorite is when Trumpet choked on his coffee when he connected. Jiten flat out screeched why the Demon Lord was here. Karma never felt more complimented in that moment. Being acknowledged as a true Demon Lord felt great. Karma could swear that Mastermind did this just to F with her predecessor's lieutenants a bit. That woman proved how sadistic she could be already to those she dislikes. Which means that she would get along with him just fine in the foreseeable future. If anything, she and Akane would be best friends forever, and you can't change his mind. He should definitely introduce them later on. Sorry for speaking first, Rikita-sama, but I think we should start this meeting. Rabbit spoke politely. Her voice changer making her look less stuttery than she actually was. It would have been useful to him in the start of his career, but oh well. Now that everyone is here, I don't see any reason to delay this any further. Karma could relate, despite him having the time of his life terrorizing them. Oh, how great it felt. He had a lot of work ahead of him. The raid on the CRC, the raid on the island where Humarize are residing, working this newest faction of his, the PLF, are apparently more of a VS for Mastermind. How brilliant, into working order. Ugh, the work of a mastermind is never over, it seems. Mastermind looked at Rabbit before shaking her head in exasperation. Everyone turned to her in confusion, so she elaborated. Not yet, there is still a person missing. Much to my own annoyance. Karma was confused by that. Wasn't all her lieutenants here already? Or is she waiting for someone else? The only other person he could think of is her brother, but he doubts that particular meeting wouldn't end in bloodshed. Curious was about to inquire what the Grand Commander meant when the door was opened once again, and a familiar, and definitely not friendly, person walked in. Hey sis. Nice decorations you had here. Vengeance, double S-ranked villain and one of the strongest supervillains in the country, and probably a huge bleach nerd from his power-up aesthetic, said cheerfully as he entered the meeting room, flanked by his second-in-command. Nice to see you in person. Yeah, Karma wasn't surprised when people jumped off their seats. Jiren looked ready to drop a glacier on the tower, and took fighting stances. The only people not affected in the slightest were Karma, Mastermind, Hyperthermia and Catalyst, as they stayed in their seats calmly. Even Rabbit jumped up, and pointed her gun at Vengeance with a startled expression. Karma was definitely proud of her reaction time, but he was also relieved she didn't shoot straight off. That would have been awkward. Hello Yami. Mastermind deadpanned. But you should learn how to knock on doors. And ask for permission like most people do. Karma decided that she never heard of the concept of dramatic entries in her life. That or she simply disregards them as pointless. Most like the latter option, to be honest. Vengeance, dressed in casual wear mostly instead of his villain outfit, shrugged at her response. Ah, come on Riki-chan, lighten up. We haven't talked about it for quite some time. And the first thing you talk about is knocking on doors? At least say nice to see you. Mastermind rolled her eyes, completely ignoring the hostile air in the room and eyes darting between her and her brother. Just take a seat already, I don't think our guest has all day. Regretfully he didn't, but Karma learned that work is never truly over for villain enterprises and organizations unless you are dead, arrested or retired. And the third option tends to, unless you skillfully fake your death, catch up to you eventually. Vengeance rolled his eyes before doing as asked, sitting on a chair between the two opposite groups, with the girl who Karma is almost certain is Quicksilver standing behind him, who was dressed in what most people would wear when they go for a jog or some workout. A light t-shirt and shorts. Karma could see that she was athletic. Not muscular but still strong. And she looked very serious right now. And ready to jump at anyone. Karma could see a knife on her side, so she wasn't unarmed. Alright, now we can start the meeting. Mastermind decided to announce with almost casual indifference. Her lieutenants turned to her blankly. Karma isn't sure if Geeton is suicidal or just outright dumb, most likely the latter, to speak up. But that's probably why he was here. Can I know how do you know that SSS-ranked villain? Karma never thought someone could look as confrontational, but he didn't mind it either. Yes, he is my twin brother, idiots. I guess you couldn't believe it until today. But here he is, she cut in before her brother could give some nasty retort, most likely leading to a fight breaking off. that Quicksilver kept him from voicing out. This is Yami, my twin brother and wielder of an extremely powerful meta ability. My brother whom I've been secretly financing to build the Paranormal Liberation Front, who is the closest thing the Meta Liberation Army has to its Vanguard Action Squad. He also did quite a good job at it, annihilating our enemies quite well. Karma decided that the woman in front of him was fascinating as she was cunning. And definitely sadistic enough to not tell anyone just to see their reaction, and now he can say it confidently, worth it, which consisted of making a face similar to biting a sour lemon while being absolutely unable to do anything about it. But he never clashed with the Quirkless Liberation Front, or Mightless or any of her people. The worst he did was picking fights with the Heroes and Creature Rejection Clan and Maria. Geeton pointed out. Mastermind opened her mouth, but her brother spoke first. Because I'm not going to attack and inconvenience, let alone harm people that I relate with to that degree, you inbred 2-bit discount Elsa. Mightless and the Quirkless Liberation Front are people I respect. They stood up to a society that kicked them down. And kicked back. Even if my dear sister told me to attack them, I would decline. Karma almost burst in laughter when he called Geeton inbred. It wasn't nice, he was a product of a quirk marriage, but being an idiot justified insulting him and laughing at him, just fine. Geeton looked ready to jump and tear Vengeance limb from limb when Curious spoke up. May I know more about your faction? It's a lot of untold stories and I most definitely would be delighted to write about it. Vultures in their purest form, really. They smelled something and tackled it down, willing to bite at it no problem. Before that, I believe we should not leave our guests sitting there feeling left out and forgotten because little boys are having a meltdown, cut in Mastermind. Pisces retired for the next 5 minutes thanks to Mastermind. Hooray. There is only Geeton in the room. Unless he can make ice clones, there is only one boy having a meltdown. Vengeance replied dryly. 5 seconds, Karma corrects himself. It was peaceful for 5 seconds. Well, as hilarious and amusing as it is to see someone pounding on the quirk supremacist like the one in front of me, I think it would be nice if you do that after the meeting. I have other matters to attend to. Karma replied as he was now wearing his personal helmet, for intimidation factor, which was working well, on his head, obscuring his face. Especially that the internships will be over in a week or so. Rabbit looked genuinely sad by that statement. And Karma felt his cold heart warm up a bit. Vengeance blinked at him as if registering his presence for the first time. Oh hey man. Didn't see you there. Nice to finally meet you in person, Karma, because Hosu sure as hell didn't count as meeting. Hope you're not sour about me killing Endeavor and all. He was still salty about that particular thing. But considering Karma did kill Redestro when Vengeance had a personal grudge against the guy, then they were even. No hard feelings? Karma replied swiftly. Did you say you only had a week left? Why is that? Catalyst asked with a frown. Before anyone could get any ideas about him abandoning Rabbit, he spoke up. Mostly to not have the meeting go skydive into a bad place. Well, you see, Rabbit is an intern as stated. Villain Academy lends villain organizations and crews its students for a 3 weeks internships. And there I spent already 2 in training my intern. So naturally I only have a week left before she is back to her school's custody. Silence. Everyone is staring at him blankly. Eyes filled with shock, disbelief, confusion and bafflement. Since when was there a villain academy? Vengeance was the one to regain his ability to speak first. But he still looked quite baffled. Behind him, Quicksilver was slightly gaping at Karma. Since few months now, 2.5 when they started the internships. 3 months as of now if I am being specific. Karma replied swiftly with a smile, trying to not laugh at their faces. Mastermind spoke next. She looked. There was something hard to pinpoint on her face. Was it amazement? You opened a school for villains? Karma nodded simply. Well, the reason heroes are so proficient is that they learn their trade openly, while villains are self-taught or have mentors. Both ways it's way less efficient because mentors tend to install both good and bad habits and mistakes. Since I'm planning to rule the underworld for quite a long time, why not make sure that my followers are of good quality? The question was rhetorical, but it got them silent for a bit. Can you describe it for me? Oddly enough, it's Vengeance who spoke up. Karma didn't picture him as someone who liked schools. I am intrigued and honestly fascinated. This sounds like something out of a comic, so honestly less dumb than what we have in real-life villain versus hero stuff. Big mood, Karma thinks. But he couldn't disagree with him. The academy is located on the middle of a tropical island in the middle of nowhere so no one can find it, where access and exit is through the warp gates of Kurogiri, my S-ranked warper. The academy's campus is honestly as big, if not bigger than that of the UA's campus as far as I know. Everyone stared at him blankly. Where the hell did you get the money and funding for such a project? It's skeptic who asked, funny enough. My adoptive father is the symbol of evil. A 2-century-old mastermind. You think he doesn't have insane funds that would make the Yaoyorises scratch their heads in disbelief? Curious, who was salivating on making a long journal on the villainette about the academy, nodded with a grin. Makes sense, it's go big or go home, right? It's very understandable of you to equip the school with all necessities, including a large campus for the students. Am I right? Well, that, and all for one's personal pettiness and extreme desire to compete with the Rat King of Chaos in terms of who has the better school. How? Would you protect your students? And how many could your school carry? What is the recruitment age? Is there any specific rules? Mastermind had a strange glint in her eyes. Yup, a businesswoman that caught a huge opportunity for profit. And lost. Importantly, do you take investors? Now they're talking. Oh, we absolutely are. In fact, you get a discount on the interns, the benefit of being over others in recruitment drive, and having access to ability to recruit graduates in bulk. As well as the fact we are opening next year a branch for cybercrime. Skeptic perked up. Villains that specialize in ruining the careers of heroes like Stain and Mr. Compress. Curious perked up. And even political radicals and business criminals. Trumpet and Mastermind perked up. We also have access to very powerful students with powerful quirks and training under very good supervillains. Geeton and Vengeance perked up at that. There was also going to be a branch for mad science and for both quirks and biology and such, something that Garaki was giddy to teach. As well as a new branch that will be fully dedicated to villainous support engineers. Melissa needs her personal assistance after all. But he can talk to them about it later. Yeah, he was a master of manipulation, sue him for that. He saw praise and he was going to milk them dry as much as he could. We can discuss our investments another date, but for now, security systems? We know that heroes might try to storm the place. Catalyst was quick to stop them from throwing their money here and now. But not a big deal. If anything, Karma was impressed with her. With a nod, Karma answered the anxious secretary. The academy is also fully equipped with a 30-meter-tall circular wall surrounding the school's campus from all directions, with only a single gate like the UA's. Also multiple barriers to stop someone from flying inside without being set on fire. And the school also has a full-time security system operating everywhere at once, without any blind spots. We checked, by the way. We have the best security system money could buy, honestly. There is artillery rounds in there, mortars, rocket artillery, multiple rocket launcher, surface-to-surface missiles, ballistic missiles and Navy artillery, as well as a full Navy fleet protecting the island. We also have war scramblers operating on only letting Kurogiri in, and any other person can come in but OT go out. So to sum up, they would be trapped. And thanks to the defenses, even if anyone is dumb to attack, they would be annihilated instantly. There was dead silence in the room. Everyone was staring blankly, as if they were trying to compute what the F did they just hear. Not surprising, Karma admits he went a bit too plus ultra there, but whatever works. He also likes to show off. When Nedza finds out about his school, he'll probably amass as much firepower just to be petty. Deku is looking forward to one-upping him every time. Did you rob some American military bases when no one was looking or what? Vengeance looked like his jaw was gonna hit the floor. Karma doesn't blame him in the slightest. This was security enough to make the Tartarus manager whistle in amazement. Geeton looked truly amazed, as if he wanted to equip his compound with the same amount of weapons just to brag. He probably does. He was a power maniac. That's just the things he brought with his money? Rabbit added dryly. What? Sliding Go said, looking startled. Boss also has an army nomus patrolling the area in organized units, each of them capable of battling a top hero in equal grounds. The patrol routes include the entire area of campus without any blind spots, with fully dedicated squads of nomus patrolling the outside parts of the island 24 hours, 7 days a week all over the year. Second-gen nomus disguised as birds and normal animals, also extremely powerful. There is also gossip that there are sea monsters the size of zero-pointers hiding in the ocean around the island and waiting to destroy whatever intruders attack from the sea, made by none other than Echidna herself. There are literal dinosaurs in there, with flying dark dragons that could breath fire, hell knights with dark armors and literal flaming swords, soldiers with fully automatic weapons and military equipment. And a lot of students joke that, and I quote, I wouldn't be surprised if there was a nuke in the middle of the school inside the statue of our resident Lord of Evil, all for one that is tied up to the principal's heartbeat and fully programmed to nuke the national diet of Japan in case someone killed him, because our principal is that much of a spiteful prick at his core. That's an exact quote, added Rabbit with the most amused tone possible. There was even longer silence after that. If Karma is challenging them to attack by starting a villain school, he made sure to not go cheap in security. Everyone including Hyperthermia looked amazed by the security systems, if only the slightest but intimidated. Are you housing the children the world leaders to be groomed into political masterminds and international crime lords that shall become crime gods after they're done in there, or what? Asked Hyperthermia flatly blankly. Catalyst nodded her head in agreement with that. It was honestly overkill. And the fact that he could spare so much power when he was in the middle of a war spoke volumes about his personal arsenal. I mean, it makes low-key sense to do all if you ask me. Everyone's eyes snapped to vengeance with disbelief in them, even Quicksilver. I mean, this is possibly the first school for villains in history. Something that would become international in the future. Nations would try to attack, so if I was him, I would make my school look like an anti-apocalypse base to those willing to throw punched. And I wouldn't be surprised if our buddy here did have nukes in there. He is that much of a spiteful prick. Karma gave a thumbs up. Plus, he might decide to do like Nedzu and live there and make it his personal fortress. It definitely is one already. Maybe in the future. Sounds like one hell of an idea, if it weren't for the fact that his dad already had that idea and applied it on himself. He could go to war with the United Nations and World Hero Association from there. That was a concern for another day. His moms will veto his dad from doing something like that, even if he had a chance at winning. If only because it will decrease the time they spend together immensely. Okay, I must say, I am extremely interested in sending the young generations of our army for such training, especially if the teachers are good at helping the students not just with quirks but combat in general. Mastermind commented. Same, really looking forward to fishing for some recruits? Vengeance quickly added. Well, we don't only focus on quirks, although we do help the students trying to reach the full potential said quirks has. We also give the students refined training in hand-to-hand combat, fighting with knives and guns. We give lessons on assassinations and so on. Disguises, computer lessons and hacking, strategizing and tactics. We encourage teamwork a lot as well. But even though this is free for everyone, we are going to specialize in the second year for students. We have 3 courses: command, espionage and combat. You can what each course student is going to be in the future. The recruitment age is from 15 to 21 years old. And we don't really have a policy, we give the students a written exam. If they are smart enough to pass it, they're in. We do make sure that the students are in a good health condition before we accept them though, Karma explained. Mastermind hummed at that. I take it that you don't really care if applicants are quirked or not, do you? Karma nodded before motioning to Rabbit. When I first took Rabbit as my secretary/assistant/personal student, I knew that she was quirkless and didn't mind it. She had a brilliant mind and talent. I did attempt to give her a quirk though, only to discover that she is a late bloomer with a quirk that will awaken in a couple months. Same with future students? Catalyst perked. You're going to have a quirk? Rabbit nodded shyly. Congratulations are in order. She looked so genuine about it that it was adorable. Should Karma offer her a quirk before leaving? She would surely appreciate it. Right? Welcome to the club of late bloomers, lady. You mostly win a powerful quirk and a desire to see society burn. Vengeance added with a wry smile. You always speak from experience, Yami-kun. Hyperthermia commented, causing Mastermind to smile wryly. Ouch, so rude, Soma-chan. Vengeance frowned. Back on subject, I would be delighted to send potential students to your academy. It should definitely be beneficial in my long-term goals. Mastermind announced. With that concerned, I think now we will talk mostly about how does it work to work for me. Karma decided that he spoke enough for one day. He had a mountain of paperwork to deal with. Very well, I'm interested in working together for the future as well, then. What are the terms? Vengeance said, leaning on his chair. He looked amused and excited. Probably. It could be fate. The guy proved to be smart. You and Mr. Compress aren't the only heirs of famous villains who are trying to measure up to their ancestors' image. Karma replied with a smile. My father had many names over the years, as you know. You might know him as either All for One, or the Symbol of Evil, or the Quirk Thief. You are trying to rebuild his empire, she summarized. Yeah, right, she doesn't know that he technically already did, since she is all the time in Hokkaido and Vengeance is in his base all the time when he isn't committing slaughters against idiots that technically deserved it. Karma could look down on Vengeance even if he tried. They were similar in that regard. With some notable changes, shrugged Karma. My goal is to stop the chaos that followed his death. Chaos that, right now, appears to be carrying the faces of atrocity, the HPSC in turn flecked. Rebuilding his empire appears to be the only option to do that without worsening the situation further, at least for a villain. Not planning to be a hero anytime soon. All for One's son working alongside the UA. Trumpet commented as his head tilted a bit. Now that's a twist I didn't see coming. Would make for a great point of political alliances, huh? Karma couldn't agree more. It was a huge irony if you ask him. So, what's that new empire going to look like? Asked Mastermind. The rest of her lieutenants felt oddly out of place. They were first advisors, but this particular meeting felt way out of their league. In short, the League of Villains is going to have numerous subsidiary groups. Karma started with a smile. You might have already heard of the Villain Tech Company. It's not often that we get an SS rank support villain. You also know of the Quirkless Equality Movement being in our camp, same with the Quirkless Liberation Front. You also must have already heard of the Levelers, a villain group led by Mr. Compress consisting of peerless thieves that targets the nasty of the rich and gives to the poor. What you probably do not know is that the threat of the apocalypse destroying everything has also urged a handful of information brokers to join our exclusive espionage and information gathering organization. He isn't going to mention that damnable name. He almost managed to persuade Himiko to agree to changing it. There are more projects than that's doing fantastically as well, for example the already mentioned Villain Academy, whose sole goal is nurturing the quirks and abilities of prospective young villains, not unlike the hero academies of today. Mastermind and Vengeance laughed in unison. Rabbit was startled, while everyone but Karma were. He on the other hand could tell they were enjoying this. Assistance? Vengeance said with a wave after he stopped laughing loudly. Whoever joins you will get access to support items, to information sources, to potential qualified new recruits fitting their ideological point. Without needing to network on their own. A countrywide net with you, the spider, in the middle. Smart. Very smart. And ambitious. What in exchange for all of that? He asked curiously. His eyes were glimmering with joy. Well, someone is having a good time. Karma decided. Following the rules, announced the villain emperor. No mass murder, no attempts to change Japan into wasteland, no going after heroes' families because that's honestly a really low blow and I have personal issues with that. A cut from your villainous incomes of course. I need to pay my bills. Mastermind chuckled faintly at that. Karma didn't bother to ask. I'll also expect your support for League of Villains operations, although this is something that can be refused on a moral basis, continued the white-haired Mastermind. If a certain group doesn't like something like how the Levelers dislike the idea of killing people and their approach to villainy, I'm not going to ask them to help me or another subsidiary group in doing that. But I might ask them for help when it comes to messing up some corrupted hero group by stealing their black funds or exposing their corruption to the world. It works both ways. Karma looked at Mastermind. Same with you, Mastermind. You will also be able to ask for assistance from other groups through me when needed. Rabbit whispered something in his ear. That caused him to perk up. Oh, and I'll probably end up having to open my own bank of evil at some point, so asking for monetary assistance to be paid back after the heist is an option too, he quickly added with a smile, not that they could see it. Mastermind started laughing again, this time full of joy. Her lieutenants seemed to be surprised by it. Oh, this is just wonderful. The SSS rank supervillain declared after the laughter died down. The UA, the greatest force of good in this country, is helping you reconstruct your father's empire, merely a few years after All Might killed him. And you, a villain, the son of the most evil man in the history of Japan if not the world, are seeking to curb the chaos and stop people from killing families of heroes and committing mass murders. Oh, this is hilarious. The irony seen by my eyes is just too much, she declared. So are we going to have a deal? Karma asked, tilting his head. Mastermind and Vengeance looked at each other. And stared. Karma could swear they were speaking with their eyes. Then he remembered they were twins. It must be a thing for them to understand each other so easily. We accept, Karma-kun. Looking forward to working with you, they declared in unison. Wow, it is a thing. He was about to congratulate them when his phone rang. Strange, Himiko wouldn't call in the middle of a meeting. Did something happen when she was guarding Eri? Whatever it is, it shouldn't take long. Excuse me, I have to take this call. Mastermind. Waved it off with a smile. How nice of her. Hello. Yes. Oh hey Dobby. Black lightning exploded from Karma's body, making everyone jump in fright. What the hell do you mean the apocalypse attacked the stadium where Eri was watching? He was going to skin someone alive over this. F Mondays. IT's always the quiet ones. Katsuki sighed as his classmates celebrated gaining their provisional licenses. There were smiles, cheers, some tears and so on. But he was mostly too tired to feel shit. How's your injuries, Kaminari-kun? Asked Ochako in concern as she looked at the blonde Pikachu. Said blonde boy just waved her off with a smile. Don't worry, Uraraka. I'm fine, I mean yeah it hurt like hell before but our resident Alakanan fixed the damage. He gave a thumbs up to add to his smile, but he still had bandages on his person. Said Alakanan was taking a nap on Eraserhead's shoulder as he held her up. Eraserhead was trying his damn hardest to not smile as he held the little girl. Yeah, he could see why Karma loved her. She just makes up your day by simply existing. Well, that's good to know. You scared the hell out of us when you reached the field hospital. Hanta joked as he slung an arm over Denki's shoulder. The two started joking with each other, making everyone else laugh when Ijiru approached Katsuki with a grin. Yo bro. How do you feel now that you're a hero? Asked the stone-hard redhead with a sharp grin. Katsuki stared at him before shrugging. Fantastic. Would have felt much better if we weren't attacked by a bunch of idiots. Ijiru nodded, his smile dampening slightly. True, but we still pulled off and proved to be manly and better than the villains. So come on, don't worry. Katsuki found Ijiru's energy to be infectious and grinned back. Damn straight weird hair. We pulled off. F those damn villains. I'll smash whatever villain that gets in my way to oblivion. Guess that your girlfriends will start cosplaying supervillains from today? Mineta joked. Katsuki proceeded to strangle the great boy, who was begging for mercy while everyone else including Shoto started laughing. Speaking of smashing someone to oblivion, Katsuki was interrupted from strangling Minoru by someone tapping him on the shoulder. He paused his work and looked behind him to see Saiko smiling at him, although everyone could tell she looked tired. Hello Katsuki. We haven't seen each other in a while, only speaking on the phone. Can't you let go of your friend and spare me swa of your time? She asked sweetly. Way too sweetly. My hero. Minoru muttered in awe as Katsuki put him down. Then turned to Saiko with a nervous sweat drop. Hey. Sorry we didn't meet up more often, but have been hectic recently. Katsuki started, but Saiko raised her hand to interrupt him. Understandable Katsuki. I am a rational person. And definitely not mad, she said casually with the same smile. Katsuki looked back to his classmates, the boys giving him nervous but clueless looks. Yeah, they were out of the loop as much as he was. The girls on the other hand could tell exactly what Saiko was planning, and felt bad for their friend. Even then they still felt amused. I've been very stressed recently, do you know that? She asked while faking a sad expression. And the man I love is mostly away and not by my side. She then smiled at him before hugging his arm. Good thing I called Nedza-sensei. He said you can come home with me. I mean, I always wanted to taste your cooking and maybe we can watch a movie together too. But most importantly, I just need to get some stress relief. Before anyone could process what that means, Saiko pulled him from his collar with a grin, her expression excited. There was pause as everyone stared at the spot where the two were before the boys sighed in envy. Poor lucky bastard was all they could say. It's always the quiet ones, isn't it? Eraserhead muttered to himself. And yes, Eraserhead fully agrees with his male students. Poor lucky bastard. He was about to congratulate them when his phone rang. Strange, Himiko wouldn't call in the middle of a meeting. Did something happen when she was guarding Eri? Whatever it is, it shouldn't take long. Excuse me, I have to take this call. Mastermind waved it off with a smile. How nice of her. Hello. Yes. Oh hey Dobby, black lightning exploded from Karma's body, making everyone jump in fright. What the hell do you mean the apocalypse attacked the stadium where Eri was watching? He was going to skin someone alive over this. F Mondays. Well. Yeah, the apocalypse did attack and in the stadium where our little Alakanan was, but don't worry. Everyone's fine and Eri is super great. Things are getting wrapped up right now. That wasn't enough to decrease how pissed he was feeling. Mahoro and Eve weren't attacked if it makes you feel any better. I mean yeah there was an attack but our unicorn got to save people so. She is sleeping happily in Eraserhead's arms. That's a good thing, right? Karma rolled through his options and ideas for a bit. On one hand, yes he was pissed and ready to burn something to the ground. He was pissed that his daughter was endangered. She was a little girl. His little girl. She shouldn't be dealing with this bullshit. On the other hand, his daughter wasn't hurt and got to play hero. So she will be super happy when she wakes up. And give him a big hug thanking him for the trip while telling him about her day. Okay, he can let out his anger on something else later. Follow the police convoy transporting the villains and take it. I guess I just found new volunteers for the Nomu program's human resources. He didn't notice a lot of people flinch visibly at his words in the room. Got it, lil bro. Don't worry, Dr. Evil will have a lot of lab rats, he'll probably not know what to do with them. Dobby spoke from the other end in a cheerful tone. Alright, thanks. I'll pick them up with my summoning quirk later, so no need for Kurogiri to bother himself. Tell Tamura to prepare himself, he is going to have a co-commander from now on. And I'll introduce you to some new friends. Karma finished, deciding to wrap this conversation quickly before he dives into a nasty place. Gotcha later, boss. And with that he hung up. Karma relaxed as he deactivated his quirk. Like a switch was turned off, the atmosphere in the room relaxed slightly. Karma blinked and looked around him to see that everyone was standing back, looking at him uneasily. All of them intimidated a lot. The only exception was Mastermind, who looked more concerned, and Vengeance, who looked pumped up for a fight. Karma sighed and shook his head before coughing lightly. Sorry about that, it seems that a certain scumbag had just made it to the top of my shit list's top. Sorry about losing my temper though. Mastermind sighed before waving it off. Don't mention it. I understand your reaction being fury, even though I wish could try to be more subdued next time. You had my assistant almost jump through the window from fright. Karma was a decent human being enough to feel bad for that. He shook his head before standing up. That aside, I believe we came to terms. So I'll contact you soon to discuss the finer details of our collaboration on a later date. That at least had the twins nod in agreement with him. What a day, it's barely evening. Mondays. Soon he was leaving, but as he bid he two new friends, screw all of you, he adopts people he likes, and Karma doubts these twins like their current surname. Rabbit was talking. With Catalyst. Then the two girls hugged each other, and wasn't that just adorable, as a goodbye. Then something happened. Rabbit gave Catalyst a hug as a goodbye, after exchanging numbers and contact info on the villain net. The hug felt nice for a few seconds, but then she started to feel weird. Very weird. And wrong. She was feeling wrong. She could hear a sound, a very strong sound. It sounded like static, the static you hear from an old unworking television when it's not catching a Chanel. Was this her quirk? Boss told her to tell him immediately if she felt strange, and that her quirk could be dangerous or lethal ever. Wait a minute, she was touching someone. She might hurt Catalyst. Rabbit had quickly pulled out from the hug and jumped back, startling her new friend who poured. But Catalyst looked alarmed seeing Rabbit looking worried. Rabbit looked to see Boss talking with Mastermind and Vengeance, probably talking about plans when he turned to her. B-boss, I feel weird? Rabbit hated her stuttering, but what the hell could she do? She was scared shitless. The static sound was faint now after she hugged Catalyst, but it was still there. And it was annoying. You said if I felt weird I should say something? Boss proved to be smart as one could get by instantly getting what she meant. His expression changed to both excitement and caution. He approached her but kept from touching her. He gave her an encouraging smile. With the rest of the teens that actually came to say goodbye to them, the lieutenants ran off politely, watching intrigued. Yes, Rabbit. I told that if you felt something strange or wrong with you to tell me immediately, no matter how insignificant it might seem. Boss nodded with that super sweet smile. Okay, I like to think of myself as a bit of a quirk nerd, understatement of the millennia, judging from the exchange of looks Mastermind and Vengeance had. So why don't you tell me how are you feeling, Rabbit? I should be able to tell what quirk we're dealing with safely without having you hurt anyone by accident. Rabbit blinked at him before thinking about it for a second before replying. I felt lightheaded for a split second, then started hearing static sounds as I hugged Catalyst. The sounds got quieter. It's there though. In the background, and it's starting to annoy me. Mastermind shot her white-haired villain boss a concerned look. Is my assistant gonna be fine, Shigaraki-san? Rabbit understands the concern. First quirk activations aren't always friendly. And late bloomers tend to develop very powerful quirks. Sometimes too powerful for their own good. Boss shook his head at that, still smiling confidently. Nothing to worry about, my dear, it shouldn't be a problem. Rabbit, you just locked on your quirk at Catalyst. So good to know that whatever your quirk is, it's something of instant death touch quirk. Rabbit paled slightly at the realization that if she wasn't so lucky she might have killed her new friend. Boss must have noticed her expression as he ruffled her hair. It's okay, my sweet little bunny. Don't worry, even if it was about overhaul. Even if it was a murder accident I could revive her instantly. That at least was severely reassuring. That at least was severely reassuring, commented Mastermind with a sigh of relief. Catalyst looked more concerned for her friend than herself. Rabbit think her new friend is super sweet. Do you have any idea what her quirk can do? Rabbit has no idea either. But Boss is super smart, so he should figure it out. Karma was both the strongest and smartest in the same time. I think I know that it's either touch-based to lock on or it's at least a way for it. But how to activate it, I think it needs also some vocal command as well. Boss hummed for a second, deep in thought before he resurfaced again. He looked her in the eyes, his eyes glowing from its usual blood crimson color to bright yellow for a few seconds before he spoke. He patted her head and she could feel the weird feeling she had to catalyst move to boss. I think my quirk locked on you instead, sir. Boss gave her a surprised look before nodding his head. So it's not hand touch base but physical contact in general to lock on others. Fascinating. I think there is a quirk similar to yours, try to use it as if it was Star and Stripes? I didn't want to freak you out before, but it's actually a Class 6 quirk. Rabbit pretty much freaked out. Class 6 quirk? Like All for One and New Order and Rewind. But how? Her parents had very weak quirks. How did she jump from 2 parents with Class 2 quirks to wielding a Class 6 quirk? She couldn't register the twins let out whistles, Hyperthermia looking at her like she was a rare piece of art or Catalyst looking at her with a sparkling gaze full of amazement. Rabbit, calm down and okay. Follow me and just breath. Boss said calmly, patting her head gently while taking deep, slow and calm breath. Rabbit followed his example. After some time she calmed down enough for him to keep talking. Rabbit felt confused by his kindness. If her quirk finally kicked in, why didn't he take it yet? What is he waiting for? Why is he helping her? Okay, are you ready to use it for the first time? Or do you wish me to use erasure and turn it off until you rest for a bit? He asked in the softest tone she heard from him yet. And he always speaks to her softly. Why's Karma being nice to her? It's over. Her quirk is here. He could take her Class 6 quirk and get rid of her. Was he serious about liking her? About adopting her? All her life, people never bothered to be nice to her unless they were going to do something nasty to her. People pretending to be friends to her just so they could hurt her. Adults never sparing even a moment of their time to help the quirkless freak. Karma was a late bloomer too. He does know how it feels like. So does that mean she actually was worth something in his eyes? Did he genuinely like her? Did he genuinely think she was a useful assistant? Rabbit? Dear? Are you okay? Boss asked while ruffling her hair gently. His smile never faltered for the tiniest bit. Rabbit blinked at him before sighing. Alright, screw it. She can do it. How do I activate it? She decided to go big or go home. She could see him beam at her in pride, and now all her anxiety flew out of the metaphorical window, and was replaced by determination. She waited for this moment, she dreamed of this moment. She can now use a quirk, like everyone else, and hers is apparently super strong. Well, first things first. Yagi-sen, can you come and let Rabbit use her quirk on you? Boss asked, motioning to Vengeance to come closer to them. Ah yes, use someone else as your personal lab rat, why won't you? We're villains in the end of the day. Vengeance decided to be in as about it, despite him still coming to them. Once he was in reach he patted her gently, and she felt her connection swap into him instantly. You locked on him, dear? Boss asked gently. She nodded her head with a determined expression and he smiled. Good. Now say. Sleepy? Rabbit blinked slowly before shrugging slightly. Meanwhile everyone else gave him an incredulous look. Sleepy, she said in confusion, noting how different her voice sounded when she said that word. And then Vengeance yawned, looking so damn close to falling face flat on the floor and taking a nap. Now say well rested. Boss instructed again. Said after him, and Vengeance perked up before looking at himself in surprise. Holy shit, it's like a shot of adrenaline, he commented. She could see what she could do now. Oh, this is such a cool quirk. What are we dealing with exactly? Mastermind decided to make everyone else's confusion clear. Boss looked at her before grinning widely in amusement and fascination. Her quirk is possibly one of the coolest quirks ever. She can alter the status condition of any individual person or object that she touched recently by saying the appropriate condition name. For example, touching someone and saying dead will kill them instantly, while saying powerful will give them a potent physical boost that counts in many times over. She can also add vocally by speaking to someone through an earpiece. Although she could only issue positive statues on others. Rabbit would have said something but Vengeance beat her to it. Holy shit, so you can send her to handshake the HPSC president and then kill her with phone call? That's seriously OP to a default. Rabbit decided that the fact that someone could think of such a cool quirk only for murder is very disappointing. But she is pretty sure that he was right as well. Which was neat. Yes, but that's only the tip of the iceberg. Boss replied with a wave. Then he looked at Rabbit, then Catalyst. Catalyst, I want to try something. Would you come here? Catalyst blinked in surprise before looking at her own boss, who waved her off to do as instructed. Catalyst came to face them, and when she did, Boss was back looking at Rabbit with an intrigued expression. So, what were your parents' quirks, Catalyst? Boss asked with a smile. Catalyst blinked at him before answering. My mother could replenish her energy by drinking tea, and my dad could stockpile his sleeping hours and move them aside to stay awake longer. Not very useful quirks for fights, but it let them work for longer periods of time. Rabbit decided that either of those quirks are cool for a secretary if she had them. Now let's go for a more detailed status condition, so to speak. Say, permanent state, quirked, and let's see what happens. He motioned to Catalyst, who was looking at him in surprise. Rabbit did as instructed. And felt lightheadedness take her over. Boss wrapped an arm around her body, pulling her close, while Catalyst felt something inside her change. He looked Catalyst in the eyes for a few seconds, his eyes glowing from its usual blood crimson color to bright yellow for a few seconds. His face then displayed fascination. Yup, you got one all right, he confirmed with a thumbs up. There was a what said by everyone else. Rabbit was too busy feeling lightheaded to focus on that. Seems to be a quirk that fixes exhaustion and makes you able to function without sleep as long as you drink tea regularly. Cool quirk for a secretary if you ask me. Rabbit groaned as she felt exhausted, before she remembered that she can use her quirk on herself. Rabbit is well rested, she muttered, and she agrees with vengeance. Feels like a shot of adrenaline. She blinked in surprise, feeling as if she slept for 3 days and drank 5 energy drinks for breakfast. Then she stood upright. Catalyst was still busy freaking out about the quick thing, before running off to make some tea for herself. Boss decided that it was enough drama he caused and he waved at them. Well, this has been nice, but I need to go. I'll see you later. Speak to you on the villainette. The black cloud devoured them both after that, teleporting them back to the League headquarters. Which was good. She had something to say. Rabbit said yes. Karma almost floated under the ceiling when that adorable mass of anxiety, that also looks like the second coming of him, but gender-bended, said that she is willing to give the concept of family a second chance if it means that she'll have him as an older brother and all for one as her dad, and that she really wants to love them both. He failed to stop himself and hugged Rabbit tightly. Which, all things considered, was a SOSO idea considering Rabbit's quirk. Thankfully they quickly discover that saying unchanged safely disconnects Rabbit from other people. Right after that, forgetting about the attack for the time being, seeing his princesses are safe at the moment, he decided to do something more productive. Mainly testing Rabbit's quirk on Mustards, who didn't mind, mostly so he could have new conspiracy theories on standby for later. Tamura had left for a date with Maruko, which might or might not entail practice for when they decide to, the whole world shivered for an instant, have children. Children that would be peak murder and battle junkies. So to sum up, you want to use me as your personal lab rat so little bunny could test her quirk. I absolutely love the idea. Mustard decided to be an as about it. I thought we were family, boss. Despite his words, he is sitting on the couch with them and ready to do whatever. Yeah, definitely just being in as about it for kicks. But Deku will play along. You'll like it, Musty, plus he deadpanned. You already had Rabbit dress up in a rabbit onesie as your payment for being experimented on, which Deku is having his own fair share of joy and fluff over. She looked just too cute, damn it. It's like she was born to be put in this onesie. And her blushing shy expression was the cherry on top. And now she was his sister. He never felt so happy since he adopted Eri. Well, yeah, I am going to tolerate whatever and power through with the fuel of cuteness. But it doesn't mean I'll like it, Mustard replied. Deku agreed with him and didn't mind. Well, fine. Rabbit, try quirk resistant, Deku commanded gently. Rabbit gave a determined nod. Mustard bit his lip to not grab her for a hug. Deku related to his adopted nephew so much right now. Rabbit's hand landed on Mustard's shoulder, then she spoke, her voice somehow hollow. Mustard, quirk resistant. Deku then grabbed Mustard and then attempted to steal his quirk. It wasn't going well, actually. A minute later Deku fully gave up on trying. Well, I'll be damned, Deku announced with a grin. Rabbit looked at him with an adorably confused expression. And with the onesie she looked like a small bunny. Mustard must have lost all his control because he started patting her head with a big smile. I can't steal his quirk, so he is resistant now to literally all quirks. Well, unless it's something like fire or super strength. Those should work normally. But I can counter that with fireproof and shock immune, right? She tilted her head to the side cutely, her eyes shining with curiosity. Deku started patting Rabbit's head himself. It felt nice to do the patting as well. Yes, in fact your quirk is the most versatile I could honestly imagine. Congratulations, sweetie. You have your very own quirk now, he declared proudly. Ribbit beamed, somehow turning even more adorable. I'm going to die from brightness? Mustard announced while faking a heart attack. Big mood, but he had a point, to be honest. Can you fully explain her quirk? Alteration of states of existing entities? Deku replied with a smile. Total command over the status conditions of things and people, to speak in Reaper's terms. When she touches someone or something, she does mark them for her quirk. Then she needs to clearly say what's the desired state. When she told you quirk resistant, her quirk altered her status to that of being resistant to quirks in general. Effect. Cool. Mustard nodded sagely. Also, Rabbit, you need to figure out how to name your quirk, so. Deku started with a smile and Rabbit snuggled to him adorably. Status condition. Rabbit cheered, then she practically beamed at him. Deku recognized his earlier words. Does Rabbit look up to him that much now? The soon-to-be symbol of evil was deeply confused. What exactly did change? Well, why not, he sought. Rabbit beamed once again and even more this time. Deku Karma Shigaraki is starting to feel the heavy burden of being looked up to by a younger sibling, especially now that Rabbit is now his younger sibling. He must do his best. So does that mean she was reincarnated from solo leveling? Mustard asked with a thoughtful expression. Maybe she would later unlock the ability to increase her stays soon enough. Rabbit started laughing and Mustard gave him a thumbs up. Yeah, he loves his family. Hashtag the Shigarakis. Demon Nerd, I have an announcement. Ice Angel, HM? Green Beauty, now that's a lot of enthusiasm. Demon Lord, what is it, Izuku? Demon Lord, gasp, I'm having a grandkid? Hell Devil, doubtful. Handyman, yeah, not happening until few years, boss still needs lots of relationship points to get there. Hell Devil, more like confidence points since his girlfriends would strip if she just asked. Handyman, oh. Ice Angel, coughs into her hand. Green Beauty, coughs into her hand. Hell Devil, sorry. Handyman, sorry. Demon Lord, whatever, back to Izuku, what is it? Demon Nerd, I did it. Demon Lord, what? Hell Devil, what? Handyman, what? Demon Nerd, Rabbit said yes to the adoption. Demon Lord, why yes? Hell Devil, why yes? Handyman, why yes? Ice Angel, yay. Green Beauty, yay. Demon Lord, this is an absolute joy source. Demon Nerd, I know. She looked so adorable when she said yes. Demon Nerd, she said that she will give the concept of family a second chance if it meant she could have me as her older brother and have you guys as her parents. Demon Lord, you've with that last text warmed this 2-century-old heart more than you could possibly imagine, my boy. Green Beauty, looking forward to spending time with my new daughter. Ice Angel, me too. Demon Nerd, and while we're still speaking about Usagi-chan, let's talk about her super awesome quirk that just bloomed. Demon Lord, what? I demand details. Demon Nerd, well, it's Class 6 quirk. Class SIX dad. So yeah, it's so awesome. Green Beauty, language Izuku. Demon Nerd, sorry but I'm so excited, it's super cool, you have no idea about it, holy moly donut hole. Hell Devil, Okawe. Handyman, what does her quirk do? Demon Nerd, well, to put it simply, Rabbit decided to name its status condition and it allows her to alter the status condition of whatever and whoever she touches. Ice Angel, not following? Green Beauty, like games? Handyman, sounds cool. Demon Nerd, well-rested, powerful, fast, fireproof, bulletproof, angry, sad, happy, poisoned, tired, sleepy, powerless, dead. Those are all states she can put. Demon Lord, this is unbelievably fascinating. Hell Devil, wait, you said she alter objects too? Demon Nerd, she touched the floor and said quirk resistant and bam, I couldn't alter it with overhaul. Demon Lord, amazing. Demon Nerd, I had her test her quirk on Mustard, he doesn't mind, and she made him happy and he looked like a girl just had the deed with him. It didn't last for long though. 10 minutes. Then we had powerful, he was 10 times stronger physically. Then we had powerless and he couldn't move. Demon Nerd, I gave him a small cut and Rabbit healed him. Green Beauty, Izuku, baby, please do not use your friends as test subjects. Ice Angel, don't you have prisoners for that? Hell Devil, still on that stakeout mission, sorry. Demon Nerd, sorry but I got really excited. Demon Nerd, I suspect that larger changes like that will tire our little bunny out a lot. Demon Lord, if it didn't tire her out, that quirk would be beyond Class 6. Demon Nerd, yeah, but her quirk can be used on herself, even the well-rested, so she can basically cheat the exhaustion. Demon Lord, OMG. Hell Devil, OMG. Handyman, she has an infinite stamina bar. So cool. Green Beauty, nerds. Ice Angel, are nerds. Demon Lord, so emotional states is easy but temporary. Demon Lord, lesser biological states such as well-rested or poisoned, which doesn't necessitate changes of your body structure, just of hormones, energy levels and so on, semi-permanent in that well-rested, lasts until you stay awake for too long. Demon Lord, and then greater biological states, so those that require major changes to your body such as healing wounds or ending life, ironically the latter might be a lesser state if it just stops the heartbeat. Demon Lord, what about states without basis in biology? Have him touch you and say weightless. Ice Angel, just don't float out of the window or something please. Green Beauty, they don't have windows lol. Demon Nerd, IT works. Demon Nerd, IT works. Demon Lord, this is phenomenal. Demon Nerd, I know. Green Beauty, you two are unbelievable. Demon Nerd, oh my god, the verbal component works through a phone too. Demon Nerd, she can also put someone on the status of dead all. Her quirk works through phones too. Demon Nerd, just touch someone and you can kill him or make him float or whatever else through a phone call. This is brilliant. Demon Lord, why wasn't he around when I ruled the underworld? Demon Lord, I could kill All Might by sending him to a handshake event with Toshinori Yagi and then phoning him. Demon Lord, damn it. Hell Devil, I'm like 99% sure that One for All has some sort of increased resistance towards quirks like that, you know? Handyman, that quirk has impeccable armor and I call bullshit on it. Demon Lord, let your old man have his dreams please my boys. Green Beauty, where is Usagi-chan? Ice Angel, she should get the privilege of entering this group chat. Demon Nerd, she's busy taking on Stain, Razor and Mr. Compress. Demon Lord, how? Demon Nerd, multi-status is a thing. At least for herself. She is right now quirk-resistant, powerful and fast. They barely are keeping up HF. Hell Devil, holy F I demand to have her with me on missions. Handyman, does triggered count as a state? Demon Nerd, let me check. Demon Nerd, IT is 3 times stronger quirks without losing your mind. And you don't get exhausted afterwards. Demon Lord, this is an extremely beautiful quirk. Demon Nerd, I know. Green Beauty, to hell with Hisashi. You are his dad and I'm not budging on it. Demon Nerd, who's that? Handyman, oh. Demon Lord, never heard of him but back on subject. She can have positive status given to a person in a group? Imagine her in a goddamn command center making squads quirk resistant and bulletproof and all. Demon Nerd, F yes. She is my personal Sir Night Eye and to hell with what everyone says. She is mine. Good thing Night I never scored her. The boss, I would like to make a big announcement today. Insomniac, oh? Vampire Queen? Prism? Heartjack? Papagiri? The boss, more like 3 actually. Gecko Man, oh? World's is stage. Oh, thank you for finally giving me a goddamn second of rest. Rabbit is brutal. An op goddammit. I can barely move and I am a one big bruise. Purge the fakes. Stop whining you clown lord, she didn't kick you in the chest hard enough to send you flying through a wall. 3 actually an ouch. I think I broke more ribs because of that kick than I did this whole year. Gentle hacker. What? Gentle criminal? Rabbit? Our current resident little bunny that's too anxious to talk? Burn Beach. There was an evolution. Omega. Boss. Yup, Rabbit now has her confidence and self-esteem increased many times over, plus she is now ready to throw hands and I will explain it soon enough. The boss, but first. The boss. Announcement number 01. The boss send invitation to the chat to Juggernaut D-Rank. Juggernaut D-Rank joins the chat with default nickname of Juggernaut. Juggernaut, hi. Vampire Queen, HI. Prism, HI. Heartjack, wow. Mad Scientist, SUP. The boss send invitation to the chat to Howler Unranked. Howler Unranked joins the chat with default nickname of Howler. Handyman, Chi-Chi smiley face. Howler, Toshi smiley face. Gecko Man, too precious. Mustard, I know they are probably sitting together while writing this. Papagiri. Well, we're not back in the base yet. I took them to having ice cream as a treat for a job well done on the spying mission today. Liverful, ah yes, Papagiri in his purest form. Silver Death. I can't believe that we are actually on agreement, but yeah, I'm the newest here and I could tell he is almost everybody's dad. Vampire Queen. Well, he is mine and other dad will be my papa-in-law. The boss, I love you Himi. And the rest of you, please don't feel left out. Anyways, the boss send invitation to the chat to Toxicity E-Rank. Toxicity E-Rank joins the chat with default nickname of Toxic Girl. Toxic Girl? Good evening everyone. Vampire Queen, good evening. Wanna hang out when I'm back? Toxic Girl. OMG, I would love to. Prism. I hope you don't mind, but Himi's room is full of boss plushies. Toxic Girl, I must see those. They sound adorable. Heartjack, they are. Shield Maiden, and squishy. The boss. Sometimes I get very close to questioning my life choices. Purge the fakes, but this isn't one of them. The boss. The boss, damn it Stain. World's a stage. The boss invitation to the chat to Rabbit Deerank. Rabbit Deerank joins the chat with default nickname of Rabbit. The boss changed Rabbit's nickname to Mini Maruko. Mini Maruko, what? I don't get the joke. The boss. You are a rabbit and you are dangerous when you get close. She is a rabbit and she is dangerous when she gets close. The boss. Yes, I saw you admiring her merch in my room too. Mini Maruko, oh. Gecko Man, a boy of good taste. Mini Maruko, please don't eat me Mr. Spinner. Gecko Man, wait I didn't mean it like that. Papagiri? The boss, oh now you've done it Spinner. Don't you dare scare my rabbit. Gecko Man, sorry sir. The boss invitation to the chat to Magician S rank. Magician S rank joined the chat with default nickname of Live Zayshow. Live Zayshow, oh hello my friends, what good day to chat with a crowd. World's a stage, ah if it isn't my student. Live Zayshow, ah if it isn't my master. Gentle hacker. Aren't you guys in the same room? World's a stage, and? Live Zayshow, and? Gentle criminal, oh my word just adopt her already compress. She is already your second coming. Live Zayshow, one of my life's fantasies would come to reality. Howler they're cute together smiley face. Insomniac I guess smiley face. Insomniac, but you are better smiley face. Howler, laughing face. Mad scientist, AWWWAWWW. Vampire Queen, too precious. Prism, too pure. Heartjack, too wholesome. Toxic Girl, too adorable. Live Zayshow, too sweet. Gentle Hacker, too cute. Live Riffle, we're gonna die from diabetes from these two mark my words. Silver Death F. Silver Death, you stole the words from me why do they have to be cute like this? Deadpool, they just are trying to dig in will kill you from sweetness leave it be. Handyman, F you're right. Burn Beach, most likely I would burn down cities for those brats. School, mood. Gecko Man, but he has a point. Toxic Girl, you are an S-rank magician? Live Zayshow, I filled a top 10 heroes agency with trash, stole all the money from said agency with his armor and weapons and clothes LOL, and then dropped a trash container on top of him while slipping off from all his sidekicks, or knocking them out. Live Zayshow, then got away literally without a scratch. Well I had a bruise on my cheek but still, despite getting in a scuffle with a top hero I even defeated him. Live Zayshow, if that isn't enough to become an S-ranked I don't know what is. Live Zayshow, although I think it's the president spiting me for giving most of said money to charities for kids with villainous quirked and quickless. Toxic Girl. Juggernaut. Howler. Rabbit. Purge the fakes, I am supremely impressed right now and proud. Live Riffle, Agi Ducks Vibs up. Silver Death what? Live Riffle, sorry I've been trying to control my laughter ha. World's a stage I will adopt her. Boss, please be kind and get me the paperwork. LA Brava, please hack the government database to submit the forms. Gentle Hacker, happily. Gentle Criminal, sweet. Deadpool, welcome to the crew officially I guess little lady. The boss, yes so now we have new members now. The boss, our interns decided to accept my offer to join us on their work studies, yes like UA screw you all, and when we are not on missions they are in school but now I bought their contracts. Burn Beach, wait buy their contracts? Handyman, I read the recruitment process they signed quirk-related contracts, now their protection is our responsibility, they'll pay loans from their villainous income by doing internships, and their mentors will have their skills paid for by their performance. If you decide to have them permanently before graduation so no one else snatches them, you'll have to buy the contract by paying their full student loans. Then they'll pay you for it back later, something you salvage with them. You can't give the contract back though. The boss. Burn Beach. Papagiri. F School, holy shit. Oh. Silver Death, wait he can sound professional. Handyman, go shoot yourself Beach. Silver Death nah. The boss. Now it's time for announcement number 2. The boss. From now on Usagi Atsuki aka Rabbit aka at Mini Maruko is my beloved adopted younger sister that I cherish greatly and you're all supposed to be nice to her. The boss, as in even nicer, seriously put in some effort damn it. Burn Beach, wait the adorable brat is my sister now? The boss sent an attachment. The boss, yes this is your sister. Live Zayshow, OMG. Toxic Girl, Rabbit ID wearing a bunny onesie? Juggernaut over fluff. Gonna die. Too sweet. Teeth shall fall. Too bright. Losing sight. Insomniac, he summed it up pretty well. WTF. Handyman, I'm going to dust her old teachers and nothing is stopping me. Burn Beach, I'm going to burn her old school to the ground. Mini Maruko, Big Brothers? Handyman, yes? Smiley face. Burn Beach, yes? Smiley face. F school, WTF? Oh. Mini Maruko, well, I technically maybe might have kinda burned down my old school, and if you see from my way, I dusted the careers of my old teachers. Mini Maruko, please don't commit crimes for me. Handyman, K. Burn Beach, gotcha. The boss, yes, Rabbit is scary. Also, she is Usagi Shigaraki now. Toxic girl, wait, so Mischief is Rabbit's mom now? And Miss Freeze? Mini Maruko, yes. F school. Oh wow, boss's plan to give us all his surname has moved to another phase. Toxic girl, that's awesome. She cooks well and she's just so kind and nice to everyone. Mini Maruko, I know. And my new dad is super cool. Toxic girl, new dad? The boss, oh yeah, that's kind of the third announcement. My adoptive father, the quirk thief, the symbol of evil, all for one, is pretty much alive and well. I am kind of over-exaggerating his demise so he could enjoy retirement and grandparenting. The boss, he is also your principal. Toxic girl. Howler. Lives a show. Juggernaut, explains the evil laughters. Mini Maruko, yes it does, but he is sweet. Lives a show, sweet eat? Mini Maruko, he didn't know I had a quirk and still took me as an apprentice. Still taught me, praised me, played games with me, told me stories and cared for me. Mini Maruko, for the first time I felt like I had a dad. And I liked the feeling so much. Mad Scientist, AWWWWWW. Vampire Queen, too precious. Prism, too pure. Heartjack, too wholesome. Toxic Girl, too adorable. Lives a show, too sweet. Gentle Hacker, too cute. Liverful, too nice. Silver Death, Mini Maruko, so, can I go back to training now? World's a stage, OH please no. Purge the fakes, huge. Silver Death, no amount of money is worth this ugh. Insomniac, what's her quirk that you all are so beaten up? The boss, well, it's a class 6 quirk that, to put it in the simplest of terms, is a cheat sheet that can record reality, objects and people. Gecko Man, what? Gentle criminal? I'm not following? Handyman, she touches you and says helpless, you fall to the ground like doll whose strings were cut. She says powerful, you get 10 times stronger. She says bulletproof, you are bulletproof. She touches you and says dead, you are dead. She touches you and says quirk resistant, you are resistant to quirks. Insomniac, WTF? Papagiri, wow, my student had become even more terrifying. Toxic Girl, Rabbit could kick as before her quirk, now she kicks countries. Juggernaut OP. Lives a show, H what a twist. The Smart Commander material gets the possibly strongest support quirk, with unbelievable potential for combat too, and that is marvelous. Congratulations my dear. The boss, I know, and I couldn't be more proud of my baby sister. Mini Maruko, thank you and I-sama, and I will make you super proud. Vampire Queen, so she is my sister now? The boss, yes. Prism, let's grab her for a sleepover. Heartjack, hell yeah. Mad Scientist, don't leave me behind. The boss, well I guess that's it for today's announcement. The boss, we have more to discuss tomorrow. The UA War Council. Small for One had entered the group chat under the default nickname Small for One. Small for One, I have an announcement. Omega. The Brain? High Mind? Need Nap? Fashion Statement? Driller Thread? Mean Rabbit? Knuckles Beach? Hot Bird? Mrs. Eraserhead? Nijiresmum, what's going on Deku? I spy. Ugh, my migraine made manifest is here. Big Might, what is it this time young Shigaraki? Small Might, you sound extremely happy and that's scaring me. Hot Bird, oh I'm not the only one. Good to know. Small for One, today I don't think I felt this happy since I adopted Eri-chan. Small Might, oh? Is this about Rabbit? I spy. Mirio. Small Might, what? He probably already knows. Heck, I bet Tsukachi caught wind of it because he let us. Lie detector. Lie detector. Lie detector. Lie detector. Is that true karma? Small for One. Sucker Punch? Razor Blade? Charmer? Or maybe Clocker? I let out options for you to get gossip from. The Brain. High Mind. Fashion Statement. Driller Thread. Mean Rabbit. Knuckles Beach. Hot Bird. Mrs. Eraserhead. Nijire's Mom. I spy. Big Might. Small Might. Lie detector, I don't get paid enough for this shit. Mrs. Eraserhead. Mood. Hot Bird. Mood. Mean Rabbit, mood. Nijire's mom, mood. Need nap, he has a point though and I truly relate to him. Small for one. Hang in there Eraser, we need more people like you teaching heroes and training. Trust me, if we had more teachers like you in all schools, maybe lots of heroes nowadays wouldn't be commission lackeys. Mrs. Eraser had all. Hot Bird, he has a point though. Big Might, I must agree, me and Aizawa aren't the best of friends, but I respect him as a teacher. Small Might, he helped me with my quirk instead of expelling me for being troublesome. Need nap, because your quirk counselor and your teachers were shit and I want to strangle them. How the hell did you even pass the exam? Need nap, ugh. Small Might, luck. And rescue points. Small for one, see, you just proved my point. And now back on subject, what do you think of my school? Or well, my property, I am more of an honor guest for lectures than a teacher. The Brain? Wait, you're not the principal? Small for one, are you kidding me? Did you see how much paperwork I do on daily basis? Spoilers, it's huge stacks. Hot Bird, wait, villains do paperwork? Small for one, oh right, the commission taught you nothing besides being their pet assassin, you don't even know how to pay taxes. The Brain, don't worry, Hound Dog and me are doing great with that. And we already untangled his mess of a financial life. He is doing great. Hot Bird, and I couldn't possibly thank you enough. Hot Bird, surprised the commission didn't try to murder me for defecting. Small for one, don't worry about it, I sent a death letter to Mizuki saying if that which president hurts you I'll attack the diet in blood. Why revenge? You warned me and with the I saved my mother. Consider it me paying my debt. The Brain. High Mind. Fashion Statement. Driller Thread. Mean Rabbit. Knuckles Beach. Mrs. Eraserhead. Nijire's mom. I spy. Big Might. Small Might. Lie detector. Hot Bird, good to know they won't come after me. Small Might, I should tell you to not threaten people. Small for one, Mirio. Small Might, then I remembered that I don't care what you do with other villains, especially the nasty ones. XD. Mean Rabbit, ah. Fashion Statement, fashionably true. Driller Thread, nailed it. I spy, I can't disagree, and that is truly sad. Big Might, I hate how I can't just punch that type of problem away. Small for one, and that's why I'll murder it when it's convenient at least. The Brain, reassuring. Big Might, Nedzu. The Brain, what? It's reassuring. Small Might, I'm bringing Katsuki for long lecture. Read roast of all time lol. The Brain, now. No need to do something we might regret later. I spy, the only one who would regret anything will be you. Need nap, where was the problem child my whole life? Small for one, are you talking about Kat-chan or me? Mrs. Eraserhead, oh. Need nap, Sai, let's do this, you are the disaster child and he is the chaos child, you two don't compare to average problem children a bit. Small for one, fair. High Mind, the nickname doesn't bother you? Small for one, what are you kidding me? I like it. It's an endearing nickname from one of my favorite heroes of all time. Small for one, plus it's kinda accurate. Small Might, more accurate than I like. I spy, back on subject. What were we talking about again? Small for one, what do you think of my school? Hot Bird, you're absolutely nuts, your security system is nuts and your military-style weapons are nuts, and the idea itself is nuts, but somehow you just had function without a hitch, so to some your usual style. Small Might, mood, but it summed up the situation pretty well. Small for one, well, you didn't expect me to be left behind, did you? Heroes are much better quality, it was only fair that I increased the quality of villains I rule. Small for one, without using sketchy medicines, ugh. I love my dad and doctor, but tbh, that whole villain factory was both bullshit and stupid. And illogical. Need nap, finally someone understands me. The Brain, I am, to be honest, fascinated if not concerned, and I take it that this is a way for you to gain even more control? Small for one, well yeah, now I have villain tech to give my followers access to support gear, my personal espionage, intelligence and information gathering organization to get the group's information they need for their operations, plus get dirt on corrupt heroes and government agents, and now Villain Academy to get them recruits that fit their ideological point of view. A web with me in the center. Big Might. I spy. Lie detector. The Brain, you really surpassed your predecessor, huh? Small for one, not really, I have a lot to learn and I am not as powerful as he once was, but I'll eventually surpass all for one in power and intellect. Just not today. Knuckles Beach. All I'm hearing is that there are a lot of people to punch in the face for the future, people that's not wimps and pushovers. Good to know. Mean Rabbit, yeah. Nijire's mom, you two are impossible. Hot Bird, That sounded like what our resident Explodo kid said in the meeting lol. Small for one, speaking of Explodo kids, where is Cat-chan? I thought he would be here? Captain America. Actually yes, where is our resident? Big guy big heart do something ADI snap at you buddy? Need nap. His girlfriend from another school took him home with her as her personal chef for the night / stress relief source for the night / personal body pillow for the night, with a smile that would haunt my nightmares for a while. Small for one. Small for one. Press F to pay respects to the poor luck bastard men. Need nap F. Lie detector F. Big might F. Captain America F. I spy F. Knuckles Beach F. Fashion statement F. Driller thread F. Hot bird F. Big might F. Small might F. Mean rabbit, I say he is having the time of his life. Mrs. Eraserhead. Doesn't make him any less hoard out. Nijiresmum, doubt he would mind. The brain, back to young rabbit? Small for one, ah yes. Thank you for reminding me. Small for one, I would like to announce that Rabbit is now Usagi Shigaraki, my sweet adorable baby sister whom I would happily murder for change my mind. Nijiresmum, why am I not surprised? Small might. Wow, your master plan to make everyone in the League of Villains take your surname entered a whole new phase. Small for one, wow, Mustard said just they lol. I spy, so you adopted her? Shame. I tried to take her in but I underestimated her anxiety and skills and preparations and makeshift bombs, and she fled. I spy, my greatest failure. The boss. If it makes you feel any better, she is happy as my personal assistant / apprentice / sister, and I'm going to take good care of her. Small might, reassuring. Small for one, oh by the way. Small for one, how? Harry. Doing? The brain. Sleeping in Recovery Girl's office with a plushie and waiting to be picked up, not a scratch on her. Small for one, great. Shale that she couldn't have a peaceful trip, but at least she saved people so. Nice. Fashion statement, we can settle on that. Small for one. I also wish to announce that the Paranormal Liberation Front and Meta Liberation Army are now subsidiary groups of the Shadow Empire and work exactly under me. The brain? I spy, what? High mind, what? Need nap, what? Mrs. Eraserhead, what? Big might, what? Small might, what? Hot bird, what? Fashion statement, what? Driller thread, what? Mean rabbit, what? Captain America, what? Knuckles Beach, what? Small for one, yes. And believe it or not, Mastermind, Redestro's daughter, isn't as like her predecessor. She doesn't like the term dad much, but instead us more of a moderate who wishes for a free country instead of some decoratory might makes right ideology. Small for one, she is a very pleasant person actually. Mean rabbit, I find it hard to believe. Small for one, her personal assistant / adopted sister is a QUIRKLESS and her personal apartment keeper and maid are a complex mutant and villainous quirk bearers respectively. They worked for her for years, and she apparently got into a shouting match with Redestro, who caved in when she threatened to resign, over keeping her sister and maids. Hot bird, all. The brain, I didn't see that coming. Spy, me neither. High mind. I like her? Need nap, better than the previous leader at least. Mrs. Eraserhead. She sounds sweet? Big might. So to sum up, she wants to have a quirk system and laws similar to America? Small for one. Yes, and she is not quirkist, lol. She has zero crap policy on discrimination and bullying, and honestly just wishes for a more free country with more opportunities for the average person. Small might, that sounds cool? Fashion statement, the commission will still hate her. Driller threat, they hate everyone. Mean rabbit, true to that. Captain America, she sounds super cool. Knuckles Beach, well what about her brother? Small for one, well he is like her Tamura, she had him rummage the government and soften it up because apparently the Prime Minister was planning to have a ban on villainous quirk people going to heroics. The blow shit him up. For now at least. Knuckles Beach, okay I will that guy in the face. Mean rabbit, I'll kick him through his window. Hot bird, WTF. Small for one, yeah so to sum up the PLF is more of a vanguard action squad of hers, that she uses to burn down the others like CRC and ISP and so on. Her brother is happy with that, no problem. Big might, so to some she is smart, competent and good enough morally for you to work with her. Small for one, yes. Need nap, worrisome. Small for one, just change the quirk laws appropriately and she will stop and strike a deal with the gov. The brain, easier said than done with sod government being composed of idiots. I spy, yes. Small for one. Wanna hear about my bunny's late bloomed quirk? It was a surprise to even me. Small might, she got a quirk? Need nap, Groans what is it? Small for one? Well, it's a class 6 quirk. Big might, what? Small might, what? High mind, what? I spy what? The brain, oh, dear. Knuckles Beach, what does it do? Small for one? It's a quirk that, to put it in the simplest of terms, is a cheat sheet that can recode reality, objects and people. She named it status condition. Mean rabbit, what? Hot bird, you lost me. Fashion statement, I'm not following? Small for one. If she touches you and says helpless, you fall to the ground like doll whose strings were cut. If she says powerful, you get 10 times stronger. If she says bulletproof, you are bulletproof. If she touches you and says dead, you are dead. If she touches you and says quirk resistant, you are resistant to quirks. Small for one. It works on objects and surroundings too. She made the ground and room quirk resistant and I couldn't use overhaul. She made mustard quirk resistant and I couldn't take his quirk. She can give people one condition each. Captain America. This is an amazing and terrifying quirk. Small for one, I know right. Small might. Can she use her quirk on herself? Small for one. Right now she is quirk resistant, powerful and fast. She is giving Stain, Razor and Mr. Compress a very tough time. Mean rabbit, I demand to fight her. Small for one. One touch. Small for one. She can turn shock immune, tank you, kick, grab you when you back off, say dead and that's it. Hot bird. Why do you have all the op kids? Small for one, I don't know. Small for one. Why does this shit country keep pushing kids to villainy? Need nap. The brain, we are working on it, slowly but we are. Mean rabbit, it might take some time but at least we're doing something. Small for one. Good, I'm going to have an attack tomorrow on Humarize base, enjoy the fireworks. Small for one went offline. The brain, what? I spy he left. Hot bird, I'm going home, too tired from this UNV. Fashion statement, same. Driller thread, same. Knuckles Beach, later. Big might, hey Ryukyu, wanna drink something? Ope. Nijiresmum, sure. Small might, goodbye everyone. Aashima is a village located in Hachiho Subprefecture, Tokyo Metropolis, Japan. It was previously one of the least populated municipality in Japan, with an estimated population of 169 and a population density of 28.2 persons per km superscript 2 as of 2018. Its total area is 5.96 square kilometers. But after the dawn of quirks, so 2020 said density increased 600 person per km superscript 2 thanks to the population running off to islands where quirks didn't manifest. Well, they started doing so, but the very low population made it less appealing to the quirk who wanted to commit crimes, causing them to flee the islands into mainland Japan. Aagashimama village covers the island of Aagashima, the southernmost and most isolated populated island in the Izu archipelago in the Philippine Sea, 358.4 kilometers south of central Tokyo, and 71.4 kilometers south of Hachihojima, its nearest populated neighbor. The island is warmed by the Kuroshio Current. The town has a warmer and wetter climate than central Tokyo as well. The village covering the whole island used to be very modest, and lacked general buildings due to the small population, but on the course of the dawn of quirks, the area was quickly populated by citizens until now it's housing 3,000 people, most of them here for industry work rather than general living though. The public sector is the largest industry in Aagashima, with 12 local construction companies. It was 2, but due to the increasing industry the demand increased. The island was in the pre-quirk era very famous for its shochu and salt production. But now over the dawn of quirks the area changed into an industrial sector, where it's one of the very few places where quirks are used for production of materials and goods. Where the island was once a small insignificant part of Japan, due to its small size and lack of population, it is now one of the biggest industry sources, and since most of the population are industry workers, the other infrastructures such as schools were removed, making this place a pure industrial district. The village government employs 2,500 people and has an annual budget of 12.7 billion Japanese yen, 35.5% of which is directly subsidized by the Tokyo metropolitan government. Local taxes cover only 0.56% of the government's budget though. Due to its lack of natural harbors and strong currents, Aagashima has always been difficult to access. The wharf at the island's only port can handle small ships of up to 500 tons. And is unusable during times of high waves and inclement weather, which is pretty often. Toho Air Service provides daily helicopter service to the island from Hakijajima Airport, a 20-minute flight which is limited to 9 passengers and is regularly booked a month in advance. Something that hasn't changed ever since the dawn of quirks and kept up until now, but instead increased for more air services due to the increased population in Aashima Island. This island is, as far as Japan knows and is concerned, nothing but a small island that doesn't even have its own independence or food security but still is a good source for governmental income. And due to it being farther than main island of Japan, without a warper reaching the place is extremely difficult, making it an even better place for a headquarters for villains. Rabbit will give it to Humarize and turn Flecked. They were smart and resourceful. The report given by the infiltration squad startled the young villainess greatly, and maybe had her throw some of her plans, well most actually, through the metaphorical window. She expected a few hundred to maybe 1,000 people. Armed maybe with some guns, melee weapons and their quirks that wouldn't be much. What she got instead on the report was 9,300 people, with the civilian population being replaced slowly by cultists from Humarize. Everyone there is wielding semi-automatic or automatic weapons, as well as the fact that they seem to have access to military gear somehow, such as bulletproof vests, grenades and bombs and on. Unsurprising considering the connections Turn Flecked amassed over the years. The soldiers had everything they could need, a warper that was sending them supplies and everything they would need. You ask, where the hell did all they come from? And where the hell were all those people hiding? Where the hell was this gear stored? Well, the island was a pretty high land in the middle of the ocean. Digging an underground base to hide thousands of soldiers shouldn't be hard with some appropriate quirks. And from the report, Vampire was the best. The Humarize had a large base, perfectly fitting all those soldiers in bulk as well as all their heavy equipment and artillery weapons. It also had a huge tunnel network for the soldiers to travel around the island without being noticed by the satellites of the JSDF, however unlikely it was. Why would the JSDF waste their time on a small island barely 5 to 6 kilometers square in total? And Rabbits will have to give it them hats off for their preparations. It was going to be ugly as far as she could tell. And her brother, despite him being as loving and encouraging as an older brother could get, he unfortunately decided to perfect his image as an older brother by being an idiot at times. Such as now, as he wasn't budging on her being the leader for this mission, giving orders, picking up everything and setting up the plan for the raid. And executing it. But even though she felt very insecure about it, she won't back down. After all, if her dad and brother are strong and confident, she can be as well. Deku Shigaraki saw a lot of weird things in his life, especially that they are living in the world of superpowers, so the weird these days was far more extreme in definition than it was in the past, and he saw many strange sights as well. But right now he practically topped the list with what Rabbit asked for: the annihilation of 9,000 people. The list was standard, way too standard. He expected her to bulk and charge with twice their numbers, but nope. That wasn't what she asked for. Are you sure this all, Rabbit? The white-haired mastermind asked in concern while checking the list. Maybe he was missing something? Or this was the primary list. I understand that I told you could do whatever you like, but I'm still responsible for you. And so, I am inclined to tell you that this is way too basic. And maybe a bit. Rabbit beamed at him widely and happily. It was absolutely adorable, but still with a serious look in her eyes. The determination was there, but honestly he couldn't help but think she was cute. Yup, I am sure of what I want. I know it's unorthodox. She casually unleashed the understatement of the century, in his opinion at least. But I have a plan and I could make it work. The increased numbers through my original idea through the metaphorical window. But I am confident in what I have now, especially that my quirk would make a huge difference as well now. Well, at least she is confident. That was the point of the whole thing, right? To build up her confidence and self-esteem. He was a bit concerned, but hey, worst case scenario, something goes wrong and he sweeps in and cleans up the mess. He will be observing, of course. He was letting her out of his sight that much. He just wanted to give her a trial by fire. Have her experience what leadership feels like so she could grow further as a villainess. You do realize that they have warp scramblers, right? Warping in is a yes. But you can't warp out. So Kurogiri wouldn't be useful for you more than? He tried to change her mind. She only asked for Kurogiri? No Nomus, no supervillains, just some QLF and QEM soldiers? That's it? Well, not some. She asked for 3,000, and most of them being twice clones, a lot of twice clones. But then again, what does he know about her brain? Everyone has a style. She just grinned. I know. I have a plan for that. Just kick back and watch. It's gonna be a huge amount of fireworks. She gave him a grin. A very Miracle-like grin. Well, if that isn't encouraging. Well, he'll just do as she said, kick back and enjoy the fireworks then. Shadow Empire. Karma, I have an announcement. All for one. Oh? Mightless. Oh? Mad Scientist. Oh? Prism. Oh? Consequence. Oh? Reaper. Oh? Karma. 2 actually. Mr. Compress. Now I'm intrigued. Karma. Alright, first announcement. Karma sent an invitation to group chat to Mastermind SSS rank. Mastermind SSS ranked had accepted the invitation to the group chat. Mastermind SSS ranked joined the group chat under the default nickname of Seiyuv Quirkism. Seiyuv Quirkism Shigaraki. Karma. Yes, sorry. Karma had changed Seiyuv Quirkism's nickname to Mastermind. Mastermind? A business Chanel? Karma. Yes. Mightless? Nanny the F? Karma. Don't throw hands, she is OT a beach like her dad. Mastermind. I think the word you are looking for is, and pardon my French, APRICK. Mastermind, or CEO of Jackassery, both work fantastically. Mightless. Consequence. I think we should meet up for a civil talk? Mastermind. I'll house it. What's your favorite drinks and foods? Karma. Later, I am not done. Karma sent an invitation to group chat to Vengeance SSS rank. Vengeance SSS ranked had accepted the invitation to the group chat. Vengeance SSS ranked joined the group chat under the default nickname of Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider, really? Ghost Rider changed their nickname to Tensa Zangetsu. Tensa Zangetsu, much better. Karma? Are you kidding me? I knew you made the clothes and sword on purpose, you ass. Tensa Zangetsu, and? It's called style. Nothing is better than that form for majesty in battle. All for one, a boy of good taste I see. Tensa Zangetsu. Oh. Mastermind? Excuse me, but I need to go have a panic attack. All for one. Relax, youngsters, I am retired. I spend my days principaling and husbanding and grandparenting. Mastermind, reassuring. Mastermind, also. Mastermind changed Tensa Zangetsu's nickname to Vengeance. Vengeance. Mastermind. This is a business Chanel Yami. Vengeance, BORING. Vengeance, but I'm game. Mastermind, you're always game. Reaper? Yup, definitely siblings, alright. Karma. Yes, this is what I wanted to talk about. Karma. Let me introduce Master, leader of the new Meta Liberation Army, a better version, and the newest sub-leader of the Shadow Empire. Mr. Compress, welcome. I am the peerless thief Mr. Compress. Mastermind, pleasure meeting you and pleasure watching the footage of your heists you filmed then upload. It's a good source of entertainment. And I like your newest team member. Although you might want to invest in someone with an Ice Queen attitude to give your show a bit more flavors. You know, comic relief. Mr. Compress. Mr. Compress. Mr. Compress. Mr. Compress, I like her already. Karma, not surprised. Mightless, I don't trust her. Karma, her secretary for the past 3 years and de facto adopted sister is quirkless Mightless, and she still went into shouting matches with Redestro over keeping her. Karma, I have a lie detector quirk, she can't fool me, plus the kid was pretty happy and got a gun for self-defense in case lol. Mightless. Consequence. Consequence, I like vodka wine and mother likes margarita. We eat whatever you serve. Mastermind, excellent. See you at Saturdays. Karma, good. Now keeping on, Vengeance is now the de facto co-commander of the new merge between the Paranormal Liberation Front and Vanguard Action Squad. The Annihilation Army. Reaper what? Vengeance? Alright, that's a cool name. Vengeance, looking forward to working with you Reaper. Vengeance, and destroying things and propel, mostly destroying things and people. Reaper, never mind, we'll get along just fine. Reaper, do you like burning things? Vengeance, does it belong to idiots? Reaper, yes. Vengeance, then yes, I like to burn them with my black flames. Reaper, I'll introduce you to Dobby later, you guys will hit it off. Karma, I created a monster. All for one, as long as you can control said monster there is nothing wrong with that. Mightless, he has a point. Karma, announcement number 2. Karma, Mightless, I want you to prepare me 500 soldiers for tomorrow. Karma, same with you Consequence, I need them to be perfectly armed and it would be nice if they are the elites. Consequence, oh? Mightless, oh? All for one. What's happening? Reaper, is that about tomorrow? I'm ready to dust idiots. Mr. Compress, I have a feeling tomorrow is gonna be filled with fireworks. Karma, I'm staging an attack on a Humarize base in Aashima Island. I already got some of the military weapons needed. Rabbit asked for nothing but 4 naval artillery ships. And he mentioned soldiers. And both twice in Kurogiri. Karma, I'm confused. Mastermind, I can use Curious Assistant with the small recording gate quirk for a good show. Vengeance, now we are taking. All for one, sounds like a good show. Karma, send everyone here the link when you start, okay? You know what? Send me bit of his blood and I'll deal with the rest. Mastermind, okay. Mightless, alright, guess I'll prepare my strike teams. Please be careful, I don't want my men dying on me. Karma, got it. Warp quirks are something of a special thing in the world, especially considering Kurogiri-sensei and what sort of incredible weapon he is in Rabbit's opinion. Anyone with half a brain and an access to Kurogiri's quirk and another one that causes large-scale destruction. Tamura's decay counts, Mustard and his gas, Dabi and his prominence burn, Shield Maiden and her super strength, could easily take down the country, just keep destroying things. Open a small warp gate by a police precinct and decay it. Hit a skyscraper and decay some of its foundations and so on. Unstoppable, destructive, ruining for the morale of your opponent, etc. Something that many people don't realize, Karma could easily collapse the country's economy and infrastructure simultaneously while absolutely being uncatchable. Also, he could just warp Stain, Lady Nagant and Razor around, easily assassinating government officials, ministers, National Diet members, and even the Prime Minister Mizuki and the Hero Public Safety Commission president. But he decided to play the nice path, just nice and slow. No need to turn the country into a bloodbath. So he is taking it over slowly and surely without going on a murder spree. And people think that he is brutal. He is way more delicate than he should be. Ungrateful bastards. There are several things about warp quirks to prevent them from being completely overpowered. After all, Japan has hundreds of millions of people with quirks and only few warpers are around that could be counted on one hand. They are pretty common, but 99% of them are completely, or nearly completely, useless. Imagine being able to teleport 5 centimeters to the right, or teleport objects at a distance of 20 centimeters and so on. Barely useful. They are also pretty dangerous, which means that a lot of the time their holders don't have children, leading to their quirks dying out. It's easy for the moderate-level warping quirks to, say, teleport you into a wall or something like this. The real problem are the powerful warp quirks, which combine long range with precision. Even worse are the ones that combine both of those traits with a short activation period and limited cooldown. Those, however, do not occur naturally. Kurogiri's quirk is there, but it was artificial. The common weaknesses of those powerful warp quirks include cooldowns. Imagine having to recharge your quirk for 40 to 60 minutes after warping somewhere. If Kurogiri had such a quirk, he wouldn't be able to do anything to the League during their operations, and they wouldn't even manage to escape. An example here is the Warper from the Paranormal Liberation Front, with Transportation Portal having a variant of this weakness in which the movement isn't instantaneous, meaning that it takes him a few minutes to arrive somewhere. B. Movement limitations. Imagine only being able to warp to places that you've already visited, and even then you have to consciously save your location to warp there, and even then there's a limit to how many locations you have saved. An example here is a Warper from France that works for the government exclusively. She can only teleport to places she visited before and knows, which means that it's very limited into a taxi at best. C. A variant on the above limitation where the limitation doesn't lie in trajectory but in vector. Imagine a warp quirk that can move to every place at will, but you can't move there with them, you can only move others there or yourself simultaneously. So, in other words, mightless quirk. She can only bring someone through her gate or herself, not both in the sale time, which is very inconvenient. Another thing that usually causes problems when it comes to warp quirks is the warp interference phenomenon. You wonder what that is? It is a quirk phenomenon in which two warp quirks existing in close proximity render themselves unusable. It was first discovered early into quirks, when a pair of twins in Poland developed similar, but not identical warp quirks, with both twins remaining unaware of them having quirks at all until they grew up and one of them moved out of their home. This is theorized to be caused by the influence they have on the fabric of reality, throwing the usual system of coordinates out of whack, forcing quirks to stay in a sort of emergency shutdown mode to avoid self-destruction of their users. The alternative explanation is that stronger quirks superimpose their own navigational/coordinate system on other quirks nearby, resulting in critical malfunctions of both quirks, but especially the weaker ones. Kurogiri, somehow, and her big brother himself isn't sure how, is immune to this phenomenon. He suspects that it has something to do with him having a map/coordinates navigation quirk that gives him advantage over other warp quirks since it lacks that component. He can influence other quirks selectively, making him able to suppress other quirks or avoid going it. An example is him being able, if he had a warper around a kilometer square around him, to make said warper effectively quirkless. In general, the range of warp interference is counted in anywhere between 15 to 50 meters, depending on the strength of involved quirks, which makes Kurogiri extremely overpowered. The effect is only a thing when the quirk is being used or can be used, so quirk suppression medicines, being unconscious or sleeping, is enough to suppress the effect. Warp interference only suppresses activation of the quirk. It is possible to warp within a close proximity of another warp quirk, but it's impossible to activate warp away from the proximity of another warp quirk. Which made Kurogiri excellent for traps. Unfortunately, he still has yet to show that ability since most people avoid her brother and the League like the plague. Also, for normal warpers that isn't Kurogiri, attempting to do the former will make your trip significantly more shaky. With a large potential difference between quirks involved, it might be lethal. Some particularly powerful precise warping quirk are capable of a force activation while under warp interference, but this will be almost invariably lethal. During the dawn of quirks, mankind learned how to convincingly copy the phenomenon, creating warp coordinate scramblers, or just warp scramblers. Those machines require a lot of energy to operate, and cause some negative side effects to people within their active range on prolonged exposure: dizziness, nausea, vertigo, and a number of other neurological symptoms. Their range is much larger than that of natural quirk interference. Some of them, such as the mobile warp scramblers belonging to the JSDF, have range counted in several kilometers. It's also much stronger, enough to make warping invariably lethal. So Rabbit couldn't send her forces in with Kurogiri. So what's the solution to such a problem? Destroy them, of course. So, remind me, why are we here again? Asked a person to his friend, both wearing security guard uniforms. The guard lit up a cigarette before glancing at his partner with a skeptical frown. His partner, also dressed in the same outfit, scowled at the smoke before replying. Because this is the warp scrambling tower. Or at least one of them. Guards take turns to watch over one of those towers on daily basis, he replied, motioning to the tower at the edge of the island in front of them. It was a long, steel-made tower that was at least 30 meters tall, bulky with lamps around it. Most people could mistake it from a normal cell phone tower, but there was 3 other identical towers on 3 other sides of the island, forming a diamond formation around the island. The first guard grunted. What's the point? It's not like someone could enter the island without our knowledge, let alone get this far and destroy this tower, he grumbled as he looked around the island. The island was fully committed to their cause, the civilians had long since deserted the place. All Turnfleck needed to do was buy the businesses in the island and swap slowly but sure the workers with his followers, and everything was set. Digging the underground barracks and tunnels took more time, but with dome-quirked constructors it was done. The place had an underground traveling web throughout the whole island. The point is, someone might attack like the League of Villains. These guys aren't really very friendly with our cause, the other replied, causing the cigarette-holding guard to roll his eyes. The two blinked as they looked above to see a small spot of mist appearing high in the air. They squinted to see it expand slight and start swirling. Then before they could react, a missile shot through the small portal, heading straight to the warp scrambling tower. 3 seconds later, the explosion rocked the whole island, just to be followed by 3 more explosions in a quick succession, destroying the warp scrambling towers. The screams of terror and shock tore through the island quickly as more explosions followed. Rabbit must admit that she was pretty disappointed with how the modern society and world in general operates. It's always quirk this, quirk that, and they forgot about the power of man-made weapons. Weapons that could give the strongest of quirks a run for their money. While most people could worry about how to safely smuggle someone with a warp gate quirk to use their quirk to destroy the warp scrambling towers, Rabbit decided that she wouldn't waste time on someone. So what do when you can't go inside a place and destroy it? Destroy it from a distance, of course. And that's how Rabbit was overseeing now her self-propelled missile launchers shooting down through the warp gates of Kurogiri and destroying the towers. Thanks to Feel-Good Incorporated satellites, she had a nice view of the whole thing from multiple directions and angles. The first tower fell, the missile causing ZN explosion powerful enough to rack the island and make a small chunk of land fall in the ocean. 3 more explosions followed suit. The destruction reached the edges of the industrial village. She could see people running out of their factories, not like it matters much. As the final tower fell, she gave orders to start the second phase of the plan. The first stage was done, as now Kurogiri had a free rein to transport people and things into the island. Will be things for now though. Time for Stage 2. Stage 2 could summarized as a free bombarding in quick succession without giving the enemy time to react. And Rabbits could tell it was a success since the first few minutes of the battle couldn't, technically, be considered a battle. It was a massacre. Absolute one-sided, and with the defenders unable to respond in any coherent way since their one and only reaction was dying in droves to her attacks. That's because people in the modern times were way too reliant on quirks for combat. It was sad in Rabbit's opinion. Why use combat quirks when you can smuggle firearms or a good old bomb and use them instead? 14 small bases on the form of steel and sugar and cloth and whatever else factories of the Humarize cult were obliterated during the first 7 minutes of the battle, with Kurogiri warping bombs inside them and then vanishing before the detonation. Bombs were made by Shield Maiden NII, of course, with everything that was left of said outposts were smoking craters. Meanwhile, the naval artillery ships had reached their positions. Rabbit gleefully gave the orders to fire, looking through the screens to see where the cult members were most grouped up, before giving the location and signal for launching the rounds. The League of Villains' Warper killed 345 Humarize soldiers without the defenders being able to fire a single shot back. The naval artillery ships scored 694 kills with the soldiers being unable to do anything but explode and have their bodies tear apart, and have their limbs flying everywhere. The remaining 3 factories were located. When Kurogiri finished with the initial bombs, unfortunately, they weren't enough to level up everything. Well, more work for the missile launchers as they were warped straight where the towers used to be, getting excellent logistical points for the launch. Seeing that everything was set as desired, she grinned widely, and gave her orders to Twice and Kurogiri. The misty-looking bartender started transporting the small army that her big brother assembled for the battle. Well, he grabbed the Twice clones of said soldiers. With numbers small enough for her to use her quirk on them without fainting, but it'll make all the difference. Now it was time for Phase 3 of the plan. Stage 3 could be summed up as, suicidal bomber jacket is cool when you don't have to get your soldiers killed when using it. Twice clones of Quirkless Liberation Front and Quirkless Equality Movement were warped to the island, and moved into positions. Rabbit had an earpiece with each team. Good thing her quirk works vocally when she says positive states. Makes her work hella easier. Team A, Quirk Resistance, she called out. The 7 soldier clones she was watching through the screen started running at a group of soldiers, shrugging off bullets like they weren't there. And soon enough they were in position. She pressed a button. The clones exploded with enough force to destroy the street. None of the defenders survived. She could see multiple gatherings of the defenders trying to organize themselves to defend the island. If her calculations were correct and Vampire's information to be trusted, she had 3 more minutes before the place is swarmed with the reinforcements from underground. Good thing or bad thing depends on whose side you're on. Rabbit had a lot of soldier clones and suicide bomb jackets and many earpieces. Over 13 teams to be specific. This going to be a massacre, and it's only the stage 3. She had twice as that as her total plan. Turnflecked is a tall and slim man with luminescent light blue skin, a shaved head of dark blue hair, and a goatee mustache and arrow-shaped earrings. He wears a red robe, a golden belt, 2 glove-like prostheses accompanied with fingertips. His pants are also gray and he wears combat boots. His clothes have small discs in which he contains the energy of his quirk. His villain costume is a long white cloak with dark red parts inside. He is a cold, calculating, and charismatic extremist, obsessively focused on the notion of destroying the quirk society. He views quirks as a disease to mankind and lived by the quirk singularity theory, believing that quirks would eventually fall out of control and bring doom to humanity. He preaches that aiding in humanity's salvation is the only way to atone for being afflicted with a quirk, and he considers quirkless people to be pure human beings, which always made him confused over why Mightless had a problem with Humarize. She battled them blood-eyely and kicked their forces out of Japan, even defeating him and his reflection quirk. Ever since then the late bloomer had become one of the most fearsome, powerful, cunning and ruthless charismatic villainous masterminds in Japan's history. He is also incredibly ruthless, as he kidnapped a number of scientists to aid in his plans, threatening the lives of their families should they have refused to comply with him. Despite the brutality of his methods, he views them as a necessary way to preserve mankind and as the only way he could cleanse it, possessing not even an ounce of remorse for his actions. Because he knows he is right, singularity is almost upon them, maybe in 50 years from now society as a whole will collapse across the world. And for that he is attempting to find the cure, or cleanse that afflicted of mankind before it's too late. Unfortunately the heroes are keeping him in a tight spot, not giving him any chance to pull off any operations, with the closest thing he had to a major operation being the trigger bombing in Berlin, but he stopped the idea and the WHA and UN started tracking him down. With them being very hard to infiltrate, he couldn't risk attracting too much attention, not when he didn't have an informant to warn him of possible dangers. Despite the brutality of his methods, he views them as a necessary way to preserve mankind and as the only way he could cleanse it, possessing not even an ounce of remorse for his actions. Yes, he might have committed kidnappings and murders throughout the world and is leading a worldwide conspiracy, but it's unavoidable. The world is ending and he is the one trying to cure it. And for that he started Humorize. Humarize is a cult-like religious organization originating from Atheon, whose creed is based on the full belief in the quirk singularity doomsday theory, which conjectures that as generations pass, the quirks will become increasingly powerful to the point that they will become uncontrollable, triggering the end of mankind. Although this theory has not been proven, the members of Humarize believe in its certainty. And Turnflecht could say that they already have some singularity quirks. Just take a look at Japan and you could see all the insane quirks there, with powers that could topple cities in minutes. The organization's members absolutely despise and hate quirks. Humarize considers quirks as diseases, and they refer to those with quirks as diseased or infected and the quirkless as pure humans. They believe that their sacred mission is to save humanity from quirks, by wiping them out from the population, although they consider that killing all the people in the world with a quirk is the only way to prevent the extinction of humanity, saving pure humans. Well, it's not like there was a quirk-destroying medicine out there, was it? That would be very convenient for their plants. But unless some germphobe worked in his basement and was smart enough to make such a thing, extinction of the quirked was the only saving grace for mankind as species. Humorize members are mostly non-quirk people, though they also have numerous quirk users, including their founder. These quirk users truly believe in Humorize's creed and want to atone for being born with powers by giving their lives for the cause, but others just submit and work for Humorize so they don't get wiped out with the rest of quirk users worldwide, rather than out of genuine ideological dedication. Despite its extremist ideology and having led several anti-quirk acts, Humorize has managed to expand beyond the borders of Atheon and open branches in 25 cities around the world such as Tokyo. Well, that was until Mightless kicked them out both metaphorically and literally. Paris, New York, Singapore, Cairo, Berlin, London, Florence, and so on. They managed to secretly re-establish a branch for their operations in Japan, in a small unassuming island, and housed now thousands of fanatics there. They had gear and weapons and military hardware installed, and an underground base and tunnel web built in the underground of the island. The surface side was used for both a front and a future source of money. They were well funded, but extra income never hurt. The place was both well hidden and well secured, so when Flecht was told that said base was under attack, his natural response was to get to the command center. People are running around, shouting information about the situation and monitoring the screens. On the screens he could see explosions from every place. It looked like a war zone. And in the center was a single person. "What's the situation?" he asked once he got to the center. He takes a look at the young lad on his side wearing a black t-shirt and short trousers in a place filled with robes and other religious paraphernalia. He might look out of place, but he is going to be vital for the duration of this disaster. It's going to be ugly if what he was seeing on the screens was any indication. "We are under attack," the young lad, Rai Yoshihiro, replied promptly. "Almost everywhere at once. Aashima is under severe attack. Someone just blew up all our factories and bases. We lost outposts 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13. Never mind, we also lost 9. From this and the fact that artillery rounds are raining on the base, we can easily guess that it's not the heroes that are attacking the Aashima Island. My guess would be the League of Villains." Turnflecht wasn't expecting that in the slightest. He didn't know how that was possible. How did they find them out? How did they manage to start an attack? How did they manage to bypass the defenses? How did they manage to cause this much destruction at once? So many questions and no answers. How is this possible? The warp scrambler towers shouldn't allow warp quirks to get anyone into the island, and if they approached through the sea, it would have been detected very early thanks to the surveillance system installed around the island, frowned the high priest. The warp scrambling towers are no more. From the satellite footage, I got to witness a black mist-like vortex spiral in front of the North Tower, only 3 seconds before a missile shot through said gate, instantly destroying the tower. No harm done since they just opened a path for the attack, not stepped through then attacked. Meaning that the warp scrambling towers were more of an inconvenience to them, the lad replied with a frown, his tone emotionless. Turnflecht was both fascinated and unnerved that someone was able to think of such simple yet extremely unorthodox approach. Usage of a warp quirk to destroy anti-warp machine. The irony isn't lost on Flecht and military hardware. Whoever this person is, they are dangerous. Dangerous is the way that is the worst, dangerous as in brilliant, not powerful. There is a difference between the danger Nedzu is and the danger some super-strength quirk bearer wield after all. The enemies then started exploding our bases, probably by using their warper. High chance it is the S-ranked villain Kurogiri, to warp explosives into the factories, then leave before it detonates. Rai added, his eyes boring at the screen. They now switched to suicidal tactics, sending soldiers that are somehow bulletproof before detonating them remotely, annihilating whoever ran out of the bases. Knowing the people the League possesses, it is highly likely that these are soldiers from the Quirkless Liberation Front or their clones, to be more specific. What is the best course of action at the moment? Flecht asked, turning to the boy. We resist. We cannot do much against the soldiers other than overwhelm them with our superior numbers. I ordered the soldiers to use exits 116, 170, 201 and 213. Flecht gave him a questioning look. You are having our forces exit to the edges of the island? Flecht was a strategist and organizer. Battles wasn't his speciality. Yes, in order to besiege the enemy forces from all sides and annihilate them. Kurogiri cannot do much when he is warping more than a small group. It will turn into an all-out guerrilla wars through the city. Kurogiri could drop bombs, but that's as much as he could. I doubt the other leader would give him a more risky role. Mastermind explained. What about the leader of this assault? He decided to ask. I had the second this attack started our technopath, boosted with trigger, tracked down through their communication where the leader signal was coming from. We send in our teleporter with Purity and the Templars to eliminate the leader. Mastermind replied. Flecht looked surprised. I doubt Purity can actually manage to defeat Karma. That man is way too powerful for anyone less than the top 10 heroes combined. What makes you sure she can handle him? Karma didn't in charge of this operation. Mastermind decided to shock him with his reply. This is by far not his style or way of approaching an attack. If Karma was the one to initiate this attack, he would have started with Reaper turning a good chunk of the island to dust, just to have Dobby Prominence burn the survivors. And once the reinforcements arrive, he would send Nomus to butcher them. What we are dealing with is someone else. But they are very good. Which is bad. So I take it that we now try to hold on until we get the command center's coordinates? He asks to reconfirm. When Yoshihiro nodded his head, Flecht started barking orders. Welp, here goes plan A. Rabbit pouted as she observed through the screens in her command center. They didn't take the bait. She predicted that the reinforcements would arrive in the middle to try and save their comrades. An opportunity she would use to slaughter them by making all the vanguard soldiers bulletproof. What she got instead was the soldiers flooding from exits on the edges of Aagashima, and started circulating around her forces. They were moving in an orderly fashion. Way too organized for Rabbit's taste. Good thing she was still using twice clones for now, which would save her unwanted casualties. But unfortunately they will get butchered soon enough, especially that she doesn't want to drain her quirk. And her missile launchers are being assaulted by the enemy forces as well. They are trying to overtake her weapons despite knowing how well guarded those are? That was being illogical. No, they have a bigger plan, she just needs to see it. You still have plan B, right? Magician decided to be as snarky as to her in moment of distress. Magician was her personal priceless mobile storage for this mission, and she made the mistake of saying it loudly, and now Magician was feeling insulted. Of course I do. Rabbit replied promptly. Insulted that she was being suspected of otherwise. What villainous mastermind doesn't have at the very least contingency plans? She wasn't one of those. But unfortunately that would take some time to prepare, and I feel like there is a trap waiting to happen. But you have them in a checkmate? Why not just destroy everything laid out in the city and be done with it using artillery shells? Rabbit could theoretically do that, but she doesn't want to destroy the island too much. It would be an excellent base for the QEM if she managed to keep the place at least slightly intact. In theory yes, but the enemy probably is ready for such a thing. I have a feeling that it's going to end up uglier than I thought. Kurogiri, I'm sending you the coordinates of the exits where the soldiers are exiting. Give them hell for me. She receives a short yes in response. 1 minute later, people start dying, explosions are caused everywhere and screams fill the edges of the island with smoke clouds and fires. Time to deploy some heavy hitters. Stage 4 is already going smoothly, so why not move to Stage 5? She monitored the guerrilla fights closely for some time, but she noticed something not being right. The soldiers were moving in formations despite being slaughtered. What would she do if she was in such position? She'd have wanted to get rid of Kurogiri. Rabbit slammed her hand on the microphone. Kurogiri, explosion-proof. As expected. Rai Yoshihiro announced coldly, his eyes glowing, his face empty. They are going after our retreating units? With their warper transferring them from one group to another. Fatal mistake. Flecht spent the last 10 minutes watching his men and women get brutally butchered. Rai noted down a handful notable members of the group used for those attacks with his emotionless voice. Besides him, his mother Purity watched with worry what was happening. She was one of the main lieutenants Flecht personally trusted and one of their main organizers. Despite her flaws, she was still very important. And her son wasn't any less useful, if only she could have him work willingly with them. There was now a bunch of competent B-rank and C-rank villains who are smart and disciplined enough to follow orders, with some A-ranks among them. They were mercenaries, her son told them. Probably hired for the job. They were strong enough for such guerrilla attacks it seems, and both compliant and quick workers. Someone who was clearly boosted with trigger, was able to suck enough vitality from the Humarize soldiers to become a bulletproof juggernaut. He went in first, turning the attention of said soldiers to him. While they were busy shooting him, the mercenaries hidden in the woods rained death on them. Whoever appeared tough enough to withstand that was left to get dueled to death by the Rapper Kendo, while Kurogiri, the tank guy, and the mercs warped elsewhere. Turnfleck was watching in growing frustration as the League's forces swept through his forces like they weren't even there. They lost close to 40% of their soldiers, 1/3 of them not killed but scattered throughout the woods, typically wounded, before Rai decided that he learned enough about the enemy tactics. When Kurogiri and his forces appeared to attack another squad, he waited for just the right moment before pushing the button on the command console. The convoy that went under attack exploded. The explosion hit right as Rabbit managed to get her quirk to activate. 1/10 of a second later and Kurogiri would have been vaporized along with the other vanguard. Power Punch, a member of the Rappa fighting club her brother gifted the quirk of Rikiya Katsukame, was practically vaporized as he was bulldozing the convoy when everything around him exploded. The mercenaries were quickly evacuated, but most of them sustained at least some degree of wounds. Rappa was left stranded in the forest elsewhere. Rabbit is absolutely livid right now. They almost lost their warper, and with him, the majority of their advantage in maneuverability. If it happened she could live with it, but if she failed to make Kurogiri-sensei resistant to the explosion when it happened? No time to think about it. The battle wasn't going well at all. But if the enemy doesn't know she actually recovered Kurogiri. There was a window of opportunity for them, especially as they still had some information advantage over the enemy thanks to the Feel-Good Incorporated satellites and Shield Maiden's drone network stalking the battlefield. If she was the enemy commander, then considering the knowledge available to her, she would. Suddenly she sees close to 500 soldiers detaching from the enemy main in the village war zone and heading straight towards the missile launchers' positions on the edges of the island. The position that they knew of had to trace the rounds back. That was also impossible to be easily evacuated now that the League's warper had been eliminated. Exactly what Legion would do if he was the enemy commander. Well, someone wants to play the game of smarts. Rabbit muttered quietly as she looked around the many screens in her command center. Ugh, if only her brother let her get some way to contact him. Guess I'll just have to improvise then. You can't predict your enemy if they throw logic through the window. She was going to start the guerrilla fights. It's going to be nasty and she'll probably suffer more casualties than she initially planned or feared, but she didn't expect someone to play in the League as herself. She knew that her planning was way ahead of everyone else except for a select few in Japan. Someone with an intelligence quirk maybe? That would have been fascinating to know if it wasn't being a pain in the ass, and not the hot type of pain in the ass either. Kurogiri, change of plans, we are going to pull plan beta, she heard him mumble something in acknowledgement. Then she switched into a full channel so everyone could hear her out. Alright everyone, change of plans, we are going into chaos plan. Repeat, we are going into chaos plan. Twice, deploy as many of your clones to the center as you can. Don't hold back. Because you are invincible, you hear me? That should make the original indestructible for 3 minutes. Meaning his clones will be as well. That should buy her enough time to at least evacuate her soldiers. This is turning to a headache, and worst of all is that she was having the time of her life right now against whoever this is. Unbelievable. Rai Yoshihiro said while the main forces in Aagashima village streets started to retreat after suffering heavy casualties in a partial encirclement. This shouldn't be possible. Enemy forces most likely in possession of another warper, that or Kurogiri somehow managed to avoid the detonation, which shouldn't be possible. I also see that the twice clones are far more durable than they should be from our information, cluing us to a third unknown party making the clones and soldiers resistant to bullets and damage, most likely the leader of this assault. On that theory, high chance Kurogiri survived thanks to said leader's quirk, too little and too few clues to dissect said quirk. Our main force is depleted to an unacceptable level to achieve total victory in this battle. I recommend abandoning the base to preserve our combat strength for future engagements. Send in our warper. The Humarize forces were blood IED quite badly in the clash. Purity could see it on the screens. Every officer had cameras as a part of their outfits, meaning that she got to see the defeat of their assault group up close. Flecked frowned as he watched the massacre unfold. He doesn't like the fact that it was happening right now. His people are dying out there and he can do nothing about it. It stinks. Is there a way to tilt the table in our favor? He decided to ask, already giving up hope on winning, so he might as well make the enemy bleed as badly if not worse. There is. Mastermind replies. Silence's decapitation strike against the enemy command post is 80% ready. We can achieve at least partial victory by killing the leader. The technopath had fully located the command center. It's in a lone ship a distance far enough that help shouldn't reach. We are going to need you to attack. Explain? She asked. Rai Yoshihiro requires more and more input the longer his quirk remains active. This included asking questions when needed. The chances of Jumper eliminating the mysterious leader before Kurogiri evacuates him or warps in reinforcements are 20% at best. Rai replied promptly. Deploying you and the Templars while using Jumper as means of transport and evacuation raises the probability to 100% unless some unexpected factor comes into play. Very well. Purity replied with a smile. I shall do it then. I shall deal with whoever this, since it's not karma, I am confident we can take them down effectively. Finally. Some action. Rabbit growled unlike an actual rabbit should as she struggled to keep the plan going on. Stage 6 is not feasible anymore. She will have to ask for advice, she can't deal with this. She was partially winning but she knew she was going to a trap. What she doesn't get is where was the trap in them hemorrhaging their soldiers like this. It's like they gave up on saving their comrades and chose to win instead. But how do they win if they lost? What did Dad teach her? Winning the battle doesn't mean winning the war. She doesn't see how this applies here. With a sigh she quickly grabbed her phone to text her dad and brother. Something isn't right about this. Mini Maruko, big brother? Small for one, how's it going? Smiley face. Big for one, fabulously of course. Smiley face. Mini Maruko, reasonably well? Big for one, you don't sound sure? Mini Maruko, something is off. But I don't know what. Small for one, something about how the battle is going? What's happening? Mini Maruko, mess. Big for one, what? Mini Maruko, we should have Nedzu and Sir Night Eye look through the data they have on potential Humarize associates. Mini Maruko, Humarize has a commander on the level of those two and you guys. It's tough in here. Mini Maruko, thus far he or she are countering my every move. Mini Maruko, seems quite willing to spend manpower in suicide attacks and have them die to gather intel, which is probably the only reason why I'm winning in kill/death ratio. Mini Maruko, I have something in preparation that should do the trick, but it's going to be way more blood than I planned for. She sighed and looked through the screens just to see that everyone are just now exploding themselves, raking with them whatever clones of Twice and soldiers they could catch. Quirks are blazing and triggers are being taken. It's chaos that he even her chaos are finding to be wild. Mini Maruko, well F. Big for one. What's wrong? Mini Maruko, I've managed to weaken them enough for them to the point they are now just taking the approach of if we go put, we go out with a bang and now it's a free-for-all with triggers and suicide bombs. Mini Maruko, their commander seems to have given up for now. But I am expecting a trap. Small for one, whatever it is you got in the bag. Big for one, we trust you my dear. Mini Maruko, well thanks. Mini Maruko, F. Big for one? Small for one? Big for one. Rabbit? You there? Small for one. Rabbit you there? Big for one. What the hell is happening? Mini Maruko, big brother? Small for one, how's it going? Smiley face. Big for one, fabulously of course. Smiley face. Mini Maruko, reasonably well? Big for one, you don't sound sure? Mini Maruko, something is off. But I don't know what. Small for one, something about how the battle is going? What's happening? Mini Maruko, mess. Big for one, what? Mini Maruko, we should have Nedzu and Sir Night Eye look through the data they have on potential Humarize associates. Mini Maruko, Humarize has a commander on the level of those two and you guys. It's tough in here. Mini Maruko, thus far he or she are countering my every move. Mini Maruko, seems quite willing to spend manpower in suicide attacks and have them die to gather intel, which is probably the only reason why I'm winning in kill/death ratio. Mini Maruko, I have something in preparation that should do the trick, but it's going to be way more blood than I planned for. She sighed and looked through the screens, just in time to see that everyone from the enemy forces are now exploding themselves, taking with them whatever clones of Twice and soldiers they could catch. Quirks are blazing and triggers are being injected. It's chaos that even her chaos are finding to be wild. Deaths are stacking up from both sides, with the enemy forces getting the highest of casualties. That doesn't make sense. Did her opposition from Humarize decide F it and that he'll just take her forces down with his? Just do that and be done with it? No, she was missing something here. Okay, it seems she is dealing with someone from her level. What would Rabbit do in such a situation? Mini Maruko, well F. Big for one. What's wrong? Mini Maruko, I've managed to weaken them enough to the point they are now just taking the approach of if we go out with a bang, and now it's a free-for-all with triggers and suicide bomb jackets. Mini Maruko, their commander seems to have given up for now. But I am expecting a trap. They are too smart to just throw a tantrum. Something is fishy. Small for one, whatever it is you got in the bag. Just don't let them surprise you with sneak attack. Big for one, we trust you, my dear. Mini Maruko, well thanks. She heard the sound of something slamming on the deck of the ship with a loud thud. What's that? Did someone attack her? The alarm system started blaring throughout the ship she was using as her command post. And that's when she realized what she was missing all along. Of course, if they couldn't outsmart her, they should just eliminate her. Rabbit felt stupid for not considering the option. Now she was left to wonder how the hell did they actually reach her. Mini Maruko, F. Big for one? Small for one? Big for one. Rabbit? You there? Small for one. Rabbit, you there? Big for one. What the hell is happening? Rabbit realized that she all this time half let the enemy commander play her like a fool when she heard the alarm system going off, with red lights blaring from her command center. Without any prior warning. Even the drone network failed to notice anything. So she suspects someone with a quirk that let them hide from sight and even cameras. Brilliant. She hit the panic button on the command computer, something that was installed by Villaintech in case she needed a lift or in case her command center was under attack. It didn't work, her comms went dead the second the loud thud of the enemy landing was heard. Humarize must have sent a special strike team to eliminate her. They realized that they had, even now it was flattering, that they had a snowball's chance in hell to at least salvage the situation until she was eliminated. Something like 60 cultists approaching. Led by a woman in some differently marked robes, and probably with someone with a quirk responsible for them being able to hide from detection. Rabbit only had herself and she didn't have that much combat experience, even with her quirk, Toxicity, who unfortunately wasn't that much of a fighter. She was useful for support, but that's it. Juggernaut, who was strong but not good with overwhelming numbers. Magician isn't here unfortunately since she was busy with being a transport van, and Howler was insuperable from Hypnosis, who wasn't part of the mission. So to put it simply, she was trapped. She made sure everything was perfect for her soldiers. She perfected her strike force, she perfected the transportation measures, she perfected the contingency plans for her army. But she didn't even consider the chance that the enemy might target her for being the main, and only, mind you, brain of this operation. Her brother wasn't even here to oversee her. How stupid of her to not have a backup plan for something like this. Especially that it's something she herself would attempt. The doors were kicked open by the enemy strike team, they grabbed their weapons and were to open fire. Rabbit had only a split second to make her decision. All for one wouldn't have ran, Karma wouldn't have ran, Dobby wouldn't have ran, so she won't. She will fight to either win or die. She jumped in the front to take the attention from her friends. It worked spectacularly. Probably her headgear and earpiece made her look as the leader. Their orders made her a priority. As they aimed, she ran forward as she screamed, activating her quirk. Rabbit is bulletproof. The bullets were shot at her, but they just bounced off of her body like light being reflected by a mirror. She grabbed her sword and jumped at the nearest person to her. She added the terms fast and powerful mid-run and then made vertical slash. The guy was cleaved in half, both parts of his lifeless body dropping off to the ground with a loud thud. The others are greatly startled. She isn't sure how these guys attacks her ship. Her best guess is that they used whoever hid them from you to come with a speedboat and avoid the chaos. Smart, really smart, but not enough. They dropped their guns realizing that they were completely useless against her. Just like she planned. As they happened, Toxicity and Juggernaut rose from their cover and charged with her. She gave them the powerful status. It should be enough for them to win this fight. Turns out it wasn't. Just as she cleaned off half of the 40 soldiers that attacked her command center, new guests arrived. They were outmatched. Now that Purity, she knows her, she studied the rank of Humarize well, she was a supervillain with a powerful ally-empowering quirk, and a crowd of at least 20 more soldiers, each of them looking significantly bulkier and meaner than the ones that were attacking them, wearing different-looking red robes, appeared out of nowhere. They just randomly warped right inside her command post. And considering that her attack was a surprise, Purity should have been in Atheon. Or Humarize had a warper they could teleport them all the way here and never showed that to the world. Purity was wearing her standard villain outfit, A weird kinda anime-like nun outfit that probably didn't fit any outfit used by an actual religious organization. Then again, knowing Purity's behavior, which makes Rabbit feel very nauseous, Rabbit was earnestly surprised that it wasn't made of latex and with a whip attached to the waist to complete the aesthetic. The cultists surrounding her were obviously buffed with her quirk. Much more than he thought was possible. They looked grotesquely oversized like some discount death arms. Looks like it's going to be a tough fight. You know, I expected a fully matured man or woman to be in charge of the attack that wiped out one of our base, the only one in Japan we established since that beach Mightless kicked us out. Purity commented cheerfully as she loomed over Rabbit. She is bound by 2 of the guys. She managed to give most of her guys a good number of hits. She even killed 3 of them, but unfortunately that's when she was overwhelmed. She was held by 2 of the guys with quirk-suppressing cuffs on her. You're pretty small for a villain, sweetheart. And seeing you handcuffed like that breaks my heart. There was a lot of mockery in that sentence as well as evident amusement. Purity seemed to enjoy toying with her. Her eyes reminded her of her bullies. Jokes on her though, as Rabbit just slipped her lockpicks. She'll be free in a bit. She just needs to be sneaky about it. And you surprisingly have actual living children for someone wearing a nun outfit. Rabbit replied with a heated, furious glare. Juggernaut and Toxicity are both bound and lying on the floor. She is unconscious while he is staring angrily at Purity. Rabbit started picking her locks, slowly and carefully. She must keep them distracted. She can do that, right? Just say what's in her mind, which is quite a lot right now. She was furious. This beach hurt her friends. Rabbit won't be intimidated by the likes of her. She is defiant. She is confident. She is strong. She is Usagi Shigaraki. Rabbit isn't afraid of some with her bad boys band. And she was also ignoring how these guys were giving her serious, "Are we the baddies" meme at the moment, something she will laugh about when she lives, though whatever is coming next. If she lives through it, to be honest. She was immobilized at the moment and her hands are bound behind her back. There are those weird soldiers around them and Rabbit is certain that no help is coming. Another reason for her to save herself and her friends. Note to self. If she lived after this, that is, will invest into personal guards in every single operation she commands. Because even with her skills she was no Karma, Reaper or Dobby. Not yet anyways. Most people in this situation would try to buy time, but her situation was different. The first thing Purity did was to tell them that their warper needs just 10 minutes of recharging to evacuate them all. Although it's pretty worrisome news that Purity let slip up. Apparently she had 2 sons, not surprising with someone as active as her. One of them ran off when he was young before she left Japan, realizing that she was the baddie in life, while the other one was the commander that was a pain in her ass. Oh, how mean. Purity puffed her cheeks out in a pout. You know, I have a feeling that you and my son would hit it off quickly. You are absolutely his type, you know. Smart, snarly and strong. Cute and lively too. And most importantly very rebellious. Unfortunately, something my son shares with you quite a lot, so maybe if I gift you to him as his wife he might actually work for us willingly? Great, now she was going to end up as someone's. Her villain name didn't compare her to Rabbit's that way, damn it. Breeding slave? In her opinion at least, she would choose death instead. Although Rabbit decided to keep that small bit of information Purity let out for later, her son was forcefully working for the Humarize? That could work on her favor when she dismantles it. Because they made it to the top of her shit list. By hurting her friends. The lock-picking was going smoothly. Purity touched her face with her fingers, raising it to meet her gaze. You are going to get me so many cute grandbabies, aren't you, my darling? They would have you hair, my don't eyes, and the combined intelligence of you both. Oh, how amazing it is to just imagine it. Purity added, with just a hint of a sadistic glee in her eyes. Rabbit could see only half of her face from her current position, but she both recognizes it and doesn't. It's like her bully's eyes, but also something else. He doesn't like else. Her locks were picked, she could feel status condition back to work. And Purity made the mistake of touching her, saving her the trouble of baiting her. Die. Then go to hell and pleasure muscular and moonfish with your body, because you're as dead as a corpse. Rabbit snarled. Purity obediently fell to the ground like a marionette doll whose strings were cut, her face frozen in a look of surprise. She wasn't moving anymore. She wasn't breathing. Everyone from Humarize were startled greatly. What does it feel like now, Beach? Rabbit won. The soldiers around them started screaming in pain. As something was, wait a second, is that Purity's quirk? Being torn away from their hearts. The red-robbed soldiers that arrived with her were influenced the most, as they started vomiting blood around and squirming on the ground in agony. Those that arrived later were only weakened and confused, but were still standing. Joy. Juggernaut wasted no time standing up. The cultists that were holding him were incapacitated, so he pushed them aside, his fist landing on one of the still-standing soldiers. He immediately charged towards a man in the back line that Purity mentioned to be their warper. The few still conscious and fight-capable cultists rallied around him, their only ticket out. Few more charged towards Juggernaut from the side. Toxicity seems to have regained her consciousness. She was still wobbly, but she managed to push a button on her mask. It's a support item that was made for her by Villain Tech. It kept filtrating her poison from her breath, gathering it in a concentrated form. Now it's unleashed as a cloud, enveloping the group about to attack Juggernaut. Enough to knock them out. Then she fell back to the ground, her strength spent. Rabbit stood up herself, healing her injuries. She was getting tired, but she wasn't going down easily. She was going to help her friends through this. The soldiers trained their guns on Juggernaut, but Rabbit bounced off the walls and slammed between them, kicking the first person on the front in the head hard enough to send it flying like a football. Luna Arc. She also declared just for homage to one of her idols in life. Somewhere else, Rumi Usajiyama felt like giving a little girl a fist bump for some reason. The cultists were startled, they tried to shoot her, but her bulletproof status was enough to shrug off the bullets. She disarmed the closest person to her, startling the rest, then she started emptying the gun on the soldiers. The distraction she provided was enough for Juggernaut to reach the warper and the people surrounding him unharmed. He knocked out the warp quirk user fairly quickly. The 5 weakened cultists surrounding did their best to fight him. But it wasn't enough. When the warp quirk man falls to the ground, Juggernaut's beating continued, knocking people out left and right. Same with her, but she was less merciful, kicking people in the face hard enough it stopped resembling a face once her foot made contact. The remaining cultists charged towards them with angry battle cries. They know that it's over, that with Purity's death and their warp quirk user being out they can't hope to escape. They don't care apparently. They want revenge. Not that they are getting it. Rabbit wasn't in the mood for it. Juggernaut and herself are strong enough. As the two of them fought fiercely, a warp gate of black-purplish mist opened up in mid-air, and Kurogiri stepped through it, along with twice and a lot of armed soldiers. Excellent. She let out a sigh of relief after seeing them. It was over. Mini Maruko, I wish to announce that I lived despite trying to kill me. Big for one, OMFG you're okay. Thank everything holy in the world. Small for one, Rabbit are you okay? Why? Big for one, what happened? Small for one, we were worried. Mini Maruko, too much bullshit for one day, that's what happened. Mini Maruko, Humarize had a warper. Mini Maruko, warped Purity and 20 of her elites, who might count as top 50 each, right into my command post. Mini Maruko, just 2 minutes after another 40 regulars with automatic weapons appeared out of nowhere under some detection-suppressing quirk, probably using a speedboat. Mini Maruko, guess I'll let Dr. Evil have fun with their dead as corpses. Big for one, Purity's dead. Small for one, ha. Mini Maruko, completely. Mini Maruko, I killed her into super death. She had me bound up, but she spent too much time monologuing about how she will give to her son as a wife gift so he would finally become a villain willingly. Mini Maruko, honestly I'll help him get to UA just to spite that beach. Mini Maruko, anyways she held my cheek while speaking about grandbabies right when I picked the lock and I told her to go to hell and F muscular because is dead and voila I killed her and the people she was powering up. Mini Maruko, I'm so done with today. Big for one. Oh. Small for one. Yeah Rabbit I forgot. We now have second proof after Maruko that rabbits are nasty little creatures probably planning to end mankind. Mini Maruko, only the idiots of mankind. Mini Maruko, sorry for excess swears Papa and an Aisama but I just almost died and I'm dealing with some serious stress here. Big for one. Understandable, have a nice day. Mini Maruko, also I am moving up Humarize to the top of my shit list and I am going to FO my absolute utmost to end them, while making her done, forced villain my age one of the league members or a hero despite his mom. Small for one, I'll help laughing face. Mini Maruko, see you when the cleanup is over. The UA War Council. Lie detector, I wish to inform you that a war had just started, then ended today. The brain? I spy? I mind. Need nap, what did problem child do? Lie detector, he wiped out Aashima Island's population. Big might, what? Small might, what? Hot bird, what? Captain America, what? Fashion statement, what? Driller thread, what? Mean rabbit, WTF. Nijiresmo, what? Knuckles Beach, WTF. Mrs. Eraserhead, WTF. Mad bomb, timeout people. Izuku would never wipe out an island filled with innocent people. There is some foul play. Lie detector. Well, you're right, we just discovered that said island was, fully without any exception, populated with members of the Humarize cult members. Oh, and there was around 9,000 of them, most of them hidden underground. I spy? The brain, what? Big Might. Are you kidding me, Neo Mesa? Lie detector. Nope, I need coffee. Need nap, same. Mad Bomb, that makes more sense. Mad Bomb, how? Bad. Lie detector. We have a satellite recording, we also got a film in our precinct. Honestly, I feel karma gave it to us for funsis. Mean Rabbit, WTF would he give you this? Lie detector. Something about urgent villain rankings. The brain, huh? Lie detector. I'll message you the film, watch it, then give me your comments. Also, we discovered the body of Purity neatly gifted. It was wrapped in box FFS. To my police precinct? Need nap, the disaster child is mocking us. Knuckles Beach, at least that genocidal beach is dead. Mad Bomb, who the F is Purity? Small Might, yeah? Never heard of her. I spy. A supervillain and leader of the Humorize branch in Japan. Need nap. Until Mightless kicked them out and launched war on Japan in the name of quirkless people. Lie detector. She was very slippery, then she disappeared, apparently she went to Atheon. The brain, and she came back? Just to have a late bloomer kill her? Knuckles Beach, the irony of that. Lie detector. Anyways, you want to watch yourselves or do want a summary? Need nap? If you have a summary, then why watch it? Lie detector. The movie showcases the battle through satellite views, and what seems to be a special remote camera quirk, edited with some explanations of what was happening. The brain? So to sum up, he wanted to show us his progress? Mean Rabbit? Or maybe show off his new members? Lie detector. Actually, the commander of this mission and the person who killed Purity is Usagi Shigaraki. Nijire's mom. That kid. Oh. The brain? I'll watch the movie later, but for now tell me the details. Lie detector. Aagashima was protected with warp scrambling towers. Usagi Shigaraki destroyed them to warp her forces through. Big Might, how did she manage that? I spy. Yes, force warping someone through an area affected by warp dots scramblers could have near-lethal consequences and even lethal. Mad Bomb, grabs popcorn. Lie detector. She had Kurogiri open a small warp gate, where they shot through a missile at the towers one by one at a quick succession. Big Might. Small Might. Hot Bird. Captain America. Fashion statement. Driller thread. Mean Rabbit. Nijire's mom. Knuckles Beach. Mrs. Eraserhead. Mad Bomb. Awesome. The brain. Am I the only one who sees how beautifully simple and easy that solution is? I spy. Too simple that no one considered. Hi Mind. Are we sure she isn't his long-lost sister? She looks like him, but with black hair. The brain. Do you think she would join UA under a false ID if I ask nicely? Need nap. Nedza no. The brain. Nedza yes. Mad Bomb. Nedza yes. Small Might. Nedza yes. Hot Bird. I would be happy to have a one-touch death girl as a hero student, thank you so much, especially such op1. Knuckles Beach. What did do after that? Lie detector. She had Kurogiri apparently warp bombs inside the factories, which is also outposts where the soldiers reside and train when not doing work as a front. Lie detector. He would disappear before they explode, leveling down the buildings and killing hundreds with each of the 13 factories. She killed almost 1,000 people in the first few minutes with just a warper and explosives. The brain. Hi Mind. Mad Bomb. This is so cool. Mad Bomb. Why couldn't I have met her earlier? And why couldn't she be older? Mad Bomb. I'm watching the movie after this because I like explosions. I spy. Are we seriously giving a 13-years-old kid a triple S rank? Knuckles Beach. She is smart enough to destroy an army, smartass. Mean Rabbit. And probably fight even All Might to a standstill if what Karma said is true, if not outright kill him. I spy. I spy. Why couldn't I have her in my agency? Small Might. Why couldn't I have her as my junior? Nijire's mom. What happened once that step of the plan was over? Lie detector. She started using twice clones as suicide bombers to eliminate all the surface forces before those hiding underground could emerge through tunnels dug specifically for traveling through the island. Fashion statement. So controlled annihilation while trying to limit the casualties as much as possible. Along with excessive use of explosives and bombs. Mad Bomb. Says you, I say that she is a girl of good taste. Small Might. Adopt her already. Mad Bomb. I'll negotiate the nerd, thank for the idea. We can give her both our surnames. Hot Bird. Seriously? Mad Bomb. Yes. Mean Rabbit. Oh. Knuckles Beach. Back to work, what happened after that? Lie detector. Well, that's when things got messy. The film had Rabbit's plans from there getting countered, turning it to guerrilla wars around the island. She had the advantage, but from her thoughts, which was probably recorded, she suspects that Humarize has a leader with Turnflecht who has a class 4 or 5 intelligence quirk. The brain, oh dear. Driller thread, what happened after that? Lie detector. Well, to sum that up, battles kept raging until Rabbit's command center, a ship few kilometers from Aashima, was attacked by a ship with a villain holding detection-canceling quirk. Lie detector. Then Purity warped in. She had Rabbit bound with her 2 friends, identified as both E-rank villain Toxicity and C-rank villain Juggernaut. Hot bird. If Purity had her, then how did she die? Lie detector. To sum up, Purity kept monologuing about how she had a son who ran off when she was still in Japan wanting to be a hero, while another one of her age was more a forced villain. The brain. Night, I wanna work with me to find that boy? He might be on recruitment age for UA. I spy, happily. Need nap, the younger one is forced? Maybe we can save him if we move fast enough. Big Might, I'll ask Star and Stripe for help. Lie detector. Then Purity went on how she will gift Rabbit to him as gift wife to break the ice. Mad Bomb, I have a feeling he will gift his mom a bomb in her pillow for gratitude, if you get what I mean. Hot bird. Yeah, that if Karma didn't just storm the place and kill everyone inside slowly to save his sister. Knuckles Beach, that's the most likely to happen, yes. Nijire's mom, what happened next? Lie detector, she was without anyone's notice picking up her cuffs. Mad Bomb, yeah, forgot she knows how. Hot bird, that kid is scary. Small Might, and smart and tricky. Need nap, and that's why I insist on having skills outside of quirk's usage. Lie detector. Once she freed herself, while Purity was touching her, she told her to drop dead right before she started bouncing off the walls and kicking people in the face while shouting out Maruko's super moves. Mean Rabbit. Mean Rabbit, I will marry Reaper, just have her as my little sister. Nijire's mom. Mrs. Eraserhead. Okay, this is a big joke if you ask me. Her name, real name and fighting style and outfit just give a rabbit quirk already, lol. Knuckles Beach, and that's where the joke is. Need nap, you understand humor? Knuckles Beach, no, but I can find it. Mad Bomb, you need to find things to attack it. Knuckles Beach, precisely. Lie detector, she started fighting around with Juggernaut. Juggernaut knocked out Purity's warper, then Kurogiri arrived with reinforcements. We identified Magician and S-ranked thief, Bakugo's age, among them. Apparently from Rabbit's group of interns. Mad Bomb, how the hell did she become an S-rank? The brain, she robbed Yoroi Mush's agency. She stole his money, equipment, armored, clothes and dignity, then dropped a dumpster on him while flooding the building with trash. Mad Bomb. Mad Bomb, this is insane and hilarious and cool. Why the hell did she become a villain? I spy, Mr. Compress Fangirl. Small Might, ugh. Lie detector, so yeah, to sum up, Rabbit is now a commander of a mass murderer. The brain, I'll negotiate the commission for a change in her villain ranking. Need nap, this is a travesty. Big Might, tell about it. Psycho Intelli's morning is extremely pleasant. She felt great. And when she says great, she means the best she ever felt. So when she got up from the bed, she looked to her side, but she had to blink in surprise when she found her bed empty. Nanny the F? What were the chances of her, first but sure as hell best ever, boyfriend vanishing on her in the morning from an emergency without calling? Extremely low. Katsuki Bakugo was a person honest to the point of painful level of bluntness. Plus he held women in a surprisingly, shockingly even, high regard. He wouldn't do such a thing. So she reasoned that he was downstairs in the kitchen and, with some effort because wow she is now feeling it, got of her bed for a quick shower. One shower later, and after putting on a cute, slightly revealing and very light sleeping dress, she went down the kitchen to find a surreal sight. Katsuki Bakugo was standing in the kitchen and cooking, and by God the smell was heavenly. She still remembers last night's dinner. He cooked her Italian food. A feast that honestly she didn't expect from a guy whose whole, well mostly, hero persona is yelling diet villains. She didn't know what she was smelling, but it was making her start salivating in a not-so-proper way, but considering her whole last night, she never cared for proper much. Good morning, Twilight. Go get a seat. Katsuki startled her by pretty much acknowledging that he noticed her. He had his back turned on her. How did he see her? I didn't. But I heard your stomach grumble. Her cheeks heated up as he chuckled. With a pout she decided to do as he said and took a seat. A minute later he came to the table and put down large servings of what looked like waffles in front of her. Am I free to assume that it's strawberry flavored? She asked while trying not to drool. at both the food in front of her and at the sight of Katsuki Bakugo of all people wearing an apron. Just the apron. The fact that it's All Might themed is just a cherry on top. Her heart isn't ready for this combination of cute, funny and hot as hell. She is also wondering where he got it. She doesn't have an All Might apron. Well, you know me, smartass. I am a perfectionist to the core. If I was going to cook for, I'll make what like the most, he said with, "Are you seriously asking? Look." While also flicking her on the forehead lightly. She yelps slightly, and with a pout she reaches out to the waffle sandwich and then takes a bite. Then her mouth is swimming in flavors. Holy shit, what is he making those waffles from? They are goddamn delicious. She could taste fruits, actual strawberry, wild berry, banana, and syrup as well. You know, I kinda maybe considered making some eggs for you since it would be faster. But I didn't know what sort of eggs you would like, he mused as he took a seat beside her on the table. Psycho gave him a questioning look over the waffle sandwich, that she was still munching on. Too delicious. Something's fishy. What were the options? She decided to ask him. She is curious what's fishy because knowing Katsuki, it's going to be something wild. Something seriously wild. And maybe slightly erotic, which who thought he had it in him? Certainly not Psycho and Telly. With my tools and skills, scrambled, boiled. Or fertilized. Katsuki Bakugo, the man who blew a 50-meter-tall behemoth to kingdom come, announced with a straight face. Thankfully he timed it right so that Psycho didn't choke on the waffles, but it was very close. She stopped, turned to him robotically and stared with a blank expression. He actually gave her a shit-eating grin, one looking very much like All Might's grin, but also a bit feral in its own way, which finally pushed her over the edge. And she started laughing loudly. "Oh my god, that was the cheesiest thing I've ever heard," Psycho declared once the first outbreak of laughter was over. "Can't say that it wasn't hilarious though." "Great," Katsuki said as he took a bite of his own food. "I've decided that you deserve a good laugh. You looked surprisingly tense last evening. And a friend of mine told me that keeping your woman happy is the point of being the man in this ordeal." She decides that his friend is a wise man. If only because somehow he gave her boyfriend a new quality to add to his other ones. And because she would like to hear such jokes from time to time. "And you looked unsurprisingly stiff," Psycho teased with a sly smile of hers. "Guilty as charged, madam," Katsuki replied dryly before smirking and leaning towards her. "You were flexible for us both though, so no harm done." That was an understatement. She is never going to not blush lightly after hearing him yelling out his signature, "E," ever again. Great. Just great. Also, that was, by far, the best time of her life. And the only one, but she isn't going to bother with someone else, that's for sure. And this isn't going to be the last one. Besides, she really needed that, if only for stress relief purposes. Because, God, she needed every bit of stress relief she could get nowadays. She felt like she was about to go insane most of the time, because just lessons with Nedza-sensei is taxing. With all the attacks happening and work studies are starting soon. "Yes, and I know I kind of don't feel like going back to school tomorrow," Psycho replied before sighing. "It's a bit of a sore spot to me, you know. And that's all," she pointed at him accusingly. "Your fault?" "Well, excuse me for grossly misreading your repeated F me harder master statements." His grin grows wider and maybe a tiniest bit more feral. "Next time I'm giving you cat ears and drawing whiskers, because I swear I heard you making cat noises." He actually ran his fingers on her cheeks. And she blushed madly at the idea. Okay, the explosive blonde who yells a lot is absolutely hilarious once you get through the explosive personality and rabid attitude exterior. Good to know. "So, that was a hectic exam yesterday, wasn't it?" She decided to start a small talk. But it seems to have dampened his mood. "A good job, Psycho, you just had to mention that, didn't you?" "Yeah, guess the curse of Class 1A was rubbed on everyone else by accident," he said as he drank some juice from his own glass. Psycho gave him a questioning look. "The curse if what?" she asked with evident confusion. And maybe a hint of disbelief. Katsuki just gave her a shrug in response. "It's something we started acknowledging as a thing after the summer camp. I mean the USJ Hosu, the Interfestival, the summer camp and now the license exam. My class is cursed and not in a good way," he gave her a grin. "But I do enjoy the fighting though." Psycho took few seconds to digest what he said. Well, his class was really cursed, huh? Good thing she never applied then, because she wouldn't have made it with her sanity intact and her life. "So you live here alone?" Katsuki changed the subject once he sensed that the talk grew awkward. Psycho thinks that he was a big softy under all the obnoxious attitude, and tries to hide it with death threats. Which was adorable. "Yeah, I live alone here," Psycho said with a raised brow, noticing how stupefied her boyfriend looked. Why do you look this surprised? This house is close to my school. A 5 minutes walk actually. In a hero-patrolled area, and has stores for all necessities, plus of course the cops. Would be here in just a minute from an emergency call. So it's not dangerous for my parents to refuse letting me go independent? He kept staring at her for a few more seconds. Was she missing something here? You do the cooking and housekeeping yourself? No maids or butlers or anything, he asked for confirmation. Why would she? Oh, high-class vibes and rich family, yeah. That makes more sense. Psycho coughed before shaking her head no. No, I do all the housekeeping myself. Cooking isn't my strongest suit, so I stick to my diet of rice and steamed veggies/fish. If I wish to spice things up, I get delivery from a restaurant, which is 3 minutes away. Ha, was all he managed after few seconds of silence. Guess I lost the bet with your gravity and temper. I said that at least you have a butler, she said that you live alone. Eraserhead was right about the restaurant. But we were all wrong about where you live. He actually looked apologetic, genuinely so. So she decided to not feel insulted. Please tell me you guys didn't think I live in one of those Batman Manor places with many servants. Because even my family home isn't like that, she replied calmly. When he gave her a look to elaborate, she did. My parents live in a 3-story villa, yes, big but manageable. My family is pretty chill about their money. We are not Yaoyorisis. Katsuki snorted. Yeah, Ponytail has no idea about how to boil an egg, but enough about that. He stood up and she isn't sure if he was messing with her, likes doing it. He patted her head. I'll go wear something and text my friends to see what they're doing. And with that he started walking. You know, shame you put on those trousers, I wanted to see your bottom, she teased. He stopped, then turned to her. She was genuinely surprised by the deadpan expression he gave her. Easy, look in the mirror. He then dashed to the corridor, avoiding her, tossing a chair his direction. It was plastic, she doesn't like using breakable things in case there was a fight. Hashtag the Class 1A hotshots. King Explosion Murder. What's popping? Zapper, hey Baku bro. Riot and Red, morning bro. Tape Man, sup. Soba Man, good morning Bakugo not. Ingenium 2, good morning to you Bakugo-kun. Sugarman, hey man. Tentacles, good morning. Darkness Man, good morning. Tailman, good morning. Grape Juice, good morning. King Explosion Murder, what did I miss last night? Was kinda busy. Zapper, yeah busy. Tape Man, so. Your opinion and score? King Explosion Murder, 15. Riot in Red, out of 20? King Explosion Murder, out of 5. Zapper, all. Grape Juice, all. Tape Man, all. King Explosion Murder, don't argue. Riot in Red, that's high. King Explosion Murder? Yeah kind of, but moving from that because not discussing details, what did you guys do? Ingenium 2, I wish to inform you that all of our classmates had made it. All of our friends had gained their provisional licenses. King Explosion Murder, fantastic. Guess we all can start interning with heroes now. Zapper, yeah I guess. When will you be back? King Explosion Murder, shrugs, maybe in the evening. Darkness Man, I wish to inform you that Lemillion came looking for you, although I do not know why. Tailman, oh yeah, he asked us to tell you to talk to him when you call us because apparently your phone was off. King Explosion Murder, yeah kinda busy. But I'll call our warper chick to pick me up, I mean she has a license right? Ingenium 2, I find it a bit strange to use our friend as a taxi. King Explosion Murder, and I find it weird to be a chef but I never complained. Sugarman, ouch, but he has a point, plus I doubt she would mind. Soba Man, she'll ecstatic, she likes to feel useful. Riot in Red, we partied so hard last night, wish you've been here. King Explosion Murder, I would argue that I partied the hardest but... Grape Juice. Zapper, lucky bastard. King Explosion Murder, I know. Tape Man, how do we get like you? King Explosion Murder, you don't want to. Ingenium 2, well anyways. Sensei informs you that you should be back by 2 p.m. King Explosion Murder, gotcha. When Psycho Intelli dragged her boyfriend to her home, she knew that things were going to get potentially kinky, so she closed her phone. The only people to call were her and she already talked to them yesterday. Her classmates wouldn't call her anyways, she low-key suspects that they are afraid of her. Well, she does cackle madly sometimes, but it's part of the aesthetic. Which was something she couldn't quite understand. So to sum up, her schedule was free for this morning, not that she had much to do, and same with Katsuki since today was free for him and company as well. The result of their free time was a very lazy morning. Psycho didn't even bother fixing up her hair, giving her a surprisingly humble, non-luxurious look. She isn't sure if a lot of people would recognize her with messy hair. Heck, her parents probably wouldn't, neither will her classmates. Fantastic. Mirio states dryly. They are sitting on the opposite ends of her personal long couch, their legs entangled a little. She is drinking her favorite golden imperial tips tea and enjoying it, while Katsuki was sipping on his family's traditional hell coffee as he called it. She was him make it and dear lord, there was enough caffeine there to wake up the dead. The TV was on, showing some mostly inconsequential news about the situation in the country. Rapidly rising crime stats, riots in poorer districts over sanctions, riots in middle-strata districts over the governmental incompetence, nothing really important. Oh, there was also new heist of the levelers that happened last night, apparently with them stealing from some businessman she didn't know but heard of. Apparently said businessman was a client for, she almost threw up, forced prostitutes. The QM blew a factory that bans quirkless application ignoring any qualifications whatsoever, with the couple being graved by the visage of consequence cackling while the factory behind her, it was empty apparently, exploded with a large kaboom. Psycho noticed Katsuki's face lit up at the explosion but she didn't say anything. Fantastic. Katsuki declared dryly after he looked at her. I like you. Really gives you that nice girl that just discovered that she's an insatiable nympho and a bottom look. When she gave him a surprised look he started laughing at her expression. She would bet she was blushing furiously. His laughter heard throughout the house. Oh F you Mirio? She, rather lightheartedly, whined but he just smiled at her mischievously. I think it goes the other way really? He snarked. Oh yeah, there is totally going to be a second round before he goes back to UA, just a much shorter one. Much less tension between them to burn out. Oh, is it that hard to resist me? She asked teasingly. You can't blame me for that when you're looking absolutely gloriously in. He wolf whistled loudly. Madam, what would your classmates think if they saw you sitting here, decked in rather interesting underwear that, if my eyes don't fool me, is a rare midnight merch? Probably some variant of holy shit. I have to Google her on some lewd hero boards to see if there is more research material there. Psycho replied dryly. Sounds about right, yeah, he deadpanned. Those boards are the worst, shame that the rat can't just nuke their members for us. I'd consider that his benevolent gift to mankind. Or, well, at least Japan. Yes. Ever since she appeared in the inter-school festival, people started getting creative. She is vaguely aware of what's to be found there about her. Take Ryukyu for example, she doesn't even want to know how many lewd comics are out there about her being, ironically enough, her aesthetic and high-class vibes are making such material popular, broken. Yuck. Gross. Yeah, Maruko would literally murder someone from those boards. Do you have any idea how many lewd comics out there about her there is? Katsuki asked with a groan. Psycho felt solidarity with the rabbit heroine right now. She totally would, and I would use my family's money to get her lawyers and use all of my family's and Ned's connections to get her free. While hunting down the remaining members of said boards, she replied dryly with deadpan. Katsuki chuckled at that. Fair, and speaking of Maruko and Ryukyu, are you part of the betting pools on the internet? She gave him a questioning look and he gaped. Oh come on, your classmates never told you? She shook her head in confusion. There are betting pools in the internet for shopping heroes with heroes. Or even villains. Psycho blinked in surprise, why wouldn't her friends tell her? Alright, high-class vibes. Okay, who are you shipping All Might with? She asked in amusement. She must hear that one. Katsuki smirked at her. All Might has a crush on Ryukyu. She choked on her tea, thankfully she didn't spill it. When she recovered she gave him a shocked look. But he kept that grin. I am in the same school as him, trust me, he is still awkward, but he'll be her by the end of the month. Definitely didn't expect that. Then again All Might was an enigma, she didn't know a lot about the symbol of peace. The most she knew about him was that he was 50 or do older. She also never heard of him having a relationship in his life. Oh really? Good for him, they would look cute together, she decided to say because she didn't know what else to say about it. Okay, who do you ship the other top-ranked heroes with? Katsuki asked with a grin. He was testing her, well why not? I ship Hawks with MT Lady, she said with a straight face. He gave her a surprised look. Both young, both good-looking, both hounded by their opposite genders and sometimes the same, I would say celebrity marriage. I heard she isn't so bad when off the clock, she shrugged. Huh. I'll relay your suggestion, he added before continuing. Best genist? Pixie Bob, she said flatly. Opposites attract. They are of similar age, both popular and need to find someone. Why not go for someone similar in situation? Katsuki blinked. Head shot. Oh so easy. Mandalay, she seems patient enough to deal with a Chinibu like him, plus he is a super great guy and would make her happy. Plus she seems to be into starting a family and I heard ninjas like to have clans. The stupefied expression on her boyfriend's face is something she will savor for decades. Maruko? Oh, now she's going to give a KO. Reaper, her boyfriend, shivered in existential horror/dread at the idea. Yeah, it was scary. Don't look like that, they are both battle junkies, they are both avid gamers, they both have an 0fs given attitude, and they both have calmer sibling figures. Karma and Ryukyu. Honestly, just give them a drink and open that subject and they'll be wrestling in the bedroom that very night. Shishido, he cut in, right, he hates the idea. Ragdoll, he blinked before shrugging. She expected a weirder reaction. Gang Orca, he asked. She shrugged, she never considered it. He probably had a crush on Maruko, but it wasn't going to work out. Sir Knight, he asked. Oh, this one will make him choke. Midnight, yup, he choked on his coffee, but he, thankfully, didn't spill it on the couch. I mean, think about it. He is painfully straight and serious. With her around him, she could help him chill the F out, while he would get her to be a bit more mindful. Plus, I heard she was into tall guys. Yeah, she was bullshitting by now because honestly Midnight didn't have a taste, that she knew of, in men. His phone started ringing with messages. She pouted as he checked them, then she sat beside him seeing him turn dead serious. Wow, a little girl annihilated an army and defeated an SSS-ranked villain? Sounds dangerous. Katsuki also explained her quirk. If you could even call it that, it's like a secret love child of Star and Stripe with a powered-up quirk. Welp, guess I'll have to go to school to watch the footage and have that meeting the rat set up for discussion, he declared. She poured at him, but she couldn't do much. Katsuki woke up with a yawn, still recovering from the meeting they had yesterday evening. Apparently it was about the raid on the CRC and some plans for it. Izuku was going to raid Maria's high cathedral himself and kill her. That was the deal for the info he got them, while the UA heroes and Knuckledusters vigilantes too, are going to raid everywhere else simultaneously. The meeting was mostly a long discussion about the details of such events, he stages, the steps if the plan, what hero would be where. That sort of thing. They also discussed what to do with the informant, and Nezu admitted to have managed to find a way to enroll them. Recovery Girl probably threatened him. Which was hilarious in Katsuki's opinion. Looking at his clock, the blonde bomber realized that he had overslept his first alarm clock for his usual morning workout. Quickly changing into his uniform and going through his morning routine, shower, teeth brushing, then cooking, Katsuki was set for the first day of the new semester. Although Eraserhead wanted to skip the morning assembly and take his class with him, he was overruled by Principal Rat, who said it was vital for student unity. And so he was forced to stand with the other teachers in assembly. After a riveting speech from Rat, the students quickly went back to their classrooms. Tsuyu was quick to ask Eraserhead to clarify about the hero internships, to which complied. Mina and Denki was slightly upset that with a program like this at UA, then there wasn't a big reason for the UA Sports Festival. Shoto helped clarify that it was because of the connections students could make that opened a path for the internships, and those without such connections would have trouble getting an internship. Chastised, the duo sat down with their heads slightly down while Eraserhead continued to explain that with the rise of villains as well as the fact it was quite unheard of for first-year students in the hero course to have a provisional license, the faculty was considering whether to do it or not. Katsuki and some others argued that they were already being endangered, and that they already fought for their lives multiple times. He also pointed out that if they weren't allowed internships then they couldn't get enough experience in case another attack happened. Eraserhead found himself stumped as Katsuki, Ochako, Shoto, Momo, Tenya and even the rest of the class started giving their points of view on the matter, which unfortunately was convincing. He ended up promising to relay their arguments to the principal after classes were over. Something he wasn't very pleased about, but he couldn't help but listen to them. He ended up by the end of the day realizing that 1B and 1C gave similar arguments and complaints to their homeroom teachers, which was why Mirai and Sekijiro were in front of Nedzu's office alongside Shoyuta. 2 days later. Now that we've settled down for a bit, I believe it's time to go into more in-depth about these work studies, announced Eraserhead to all the students in the hero course as they were using the special classroom 1S once more. That said, we decided to introduce you to people who have experienced it firsthand and explain the difference between the two, continued Vlad. Mirai, on his side, nodded before turning towards the door. All right, come on in. The door opened to reveal 3 students, 2 male and 1 female, walking into the class. The 3 third years at UA who stand at the top of all UA students, also known as the Big Three. I think you already met them. They've taken some time off their busy schedule for this, so pay attention, ordered Eraserhead, getting a nod from all the students to listen intently. Holy crap, it's the guy from Hosu? Yosetsu yelled in shock, causing everyone to turn to him. The teachers deadpanned while Mirio's smile faltered a bit. Right, it's the guy with a quirk similar to All Might. I will never forget that punch. Denki added with a grin. Yeah, that punch was so manly. Idru was quick to add. Quickly, the room burst into murmurs speaking of whether or not Mirio was related to All Might, causing Nijire to start giggling and Tamaki to sweat drop. Having enough, Eraserhead activated his quirk, effectively silencing everyone in the auditorium and cutting the chatter. Okay, can you briefly introduce yourselves, starting with Amajiki? Said Eraserhead with a sigh, waving his hand to the male with messy indigo hair and pointed ears. In response, Amajiki suddenly glared at them all, sending shivers up the student's spine. They could feel the intensity of his glare and couldn't help but start shaking. Unbeknownst to them, though, the reason for his glare was that he was trying to imagine them all as potatoes. He was only half successful as he could see all their heads as potatoes, but they still retained their human bodies. Mirio. Nijire, whispered Tamaki with a gulp while looking around nervously, causing them to look at him. I can't do it. No matter how hard I try to think of them as potatoes, only their heads are potatoes, everything else is still human so I can still see them as humans. What do I do? My mind's blank. At this point, the named Amajiki turned his back towards the class, cowering as he faced the wall to avoid human interaction, causing everyone to look at him in surprise. Only a few understood that the upperclassman was an introvert through and through. Nijire just laughed at him good-naturedly as she began to tease him before introducing herself to those who didn't know her yet. I'm Nijire Hadu, and this person with a heart of a flea is Tamaki Amajiki. The other one next to me is Mirio Togata. Niji-chan. I can do my own introductions, whispered Mirio, only to be ignored as Nijire began to fire a barrage of questions at the students, easily getting distracted without even waiting for an answer to her previous questions. She's a natural airhead, thought the majority of the students with a deadpan expression. Eraserhead and Sir Night Eye began to glare at Mirio, getting impatient at the trio. Mirio immediately caught their gazes and decided to reroute back to the subject before Nijire went too far. The future is ahead is going to be, paused Mirio only to receive silence in response. They had a good idea of what he wanted to say. Grim. That's what you're supposed to say, right? All right, looks like my call-in response was a failure. While Mirio laughed at his own little failure, the other students began to express their doubts to each other. Nah, it looks like you guys aren't sure what's going on, right? Started Mirio once more, giving them his signature grin. We're third years who suddenly appeared to explain about work studies that aren't even required. That's confusing, right? Mirio put his hand on his chin as if to ponder what to do about the situation before continuing. If I recall, all the students here got their provisional licenses including the Hero Reserve student, correct? This year's first years are really energetic, and my little introduction fell a little flat. In that case, why don't you all fight me at once? Proposed Mirio, causing the students of 1A, 1B and 1C to lean back in shock at this proposal, while few students grinned in excitement. It's the most rational to have you all experience our experience firsthand, right? How about it, Eraserhead, Vlad King, Sir Night Eye? The two teachers glanced at each other before agreeing to the sudden proposal. Well, this should be interesting. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through What If Deku Became the Villain Emperor. I hope you found it as intriguing and thought-provoking as we did. A big shout out to DekuVerse for crafting such a compelling story. Don't forget to check out their profile on Archive of Our Own for more amazing works. The link is in the description below. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to What If Deku 2.0 for more fascinating explorations into the world of fanfiction and fantasy. Your support helps us create more content like this, and we're always excited to hear your thoughts and suggestions in the comments section. See you guys in the next video.